close the doors of your mind, close the gates of your mind, close the gates of your palace, your ba'ith, your ahal, your ohel, your tent, your mishkan, your mikdash, your hayikal. And bring your mind to center, bring your body to center, bring your thoughts and your mind and your mikashaba to center, bring your yetzer to center. For even when the sons of Elohim appeared before Yahuwah, Shaitan came among them, knowing that he dwells inside of one of your 12 cranial nerves and within your 12 melanin centers. And he wants to distort your mind and not to bring your mind to the understanding, be not hatmada'ah, so he can keep you captive for a whole nother year. For today is the day of freedom. Today is the day of Kahofshi. Today is the day that Yahuwah has given to us as the seventh day of Chag Matsah, even the seventh day that he given to us, even in creation, to rest. For he showed us a pattern before the foundation of the world, that the children of Yasharal should keep the Shabbat. And it should be a oath, a sign between us and him, that he is our Elohim and we are his people. For today we acknowledge the one who made all the heart of the earth, all in the heart, the rivers and streams on the surface of the earth. The one who created the God, the Ramiz, the Othman, and all the creatures in the sea. Yahuwah Elohim allows the birds and the tahanim to fly. Today Yahuwah Elohim for everything you've done, and everything you've given, and everything you've taken away. For naked we came into the world, and naked we're going to leave. Barak be the name of Yahuwah. So as we move forward from the inner man. We move forward from the inner being. We move forward from the inner center of our body. For that is where salvation lies, and that's where his Malkuth is. So as we move forward in Yahuwah Elohim. Right, so this is the 21st day, the 21st Yom of the first month, Chag Matsah, day 7. So we look at all the things that happens and transpires in the timeline, and one does not need to move out of the timeline. Because once you move out of the timeline, your understanding diminishes all the way down to nothing. And these are all the truths that Yahuwah gave to us to make us free. Right, so this is the book of Psalms. This is the book of Psalms, Tahalim. The book of Psalms, Tahalim, chapter 58 and verse 1. The book of Psalms, Tahalim, chapter 58 and verse 1. Do you indeed decree what is right, you gods? So Yahushua said in Yuchan 9:10, he said, is it not written in your Torah, said you are Elohim, you are gods? And if he called you Elohim, in whom the word of Yahuwah came, then you can't change it. No male or female, no other doctrine. Even in Psalms 82, he says he judges in the midst of the Elohims. Do you judge the children of man uprightly? Do you judge properly? Are you harshly judging properly? Why? Because the Chdsh going to judge the world. And if you can't judge these small matters, how are you going to be able to judge Malakim, super beings, beings that's been here before you that actually was bound by other men? No, in your heart you devised wrong. He said in your heart. Why? Because he said you created something wrong in your heart. That's why you don't judge properly. That's why when people see something wrong, they don't say nothing. They be just like Asu in the mountains when their brother Yaakov was taken and he ain't do nothing to help. Well, these are all a part of it. He said you devised wrong. Your hands deal out violence on earth. And you look at the earth today. He said your yard deals out violence on the earth. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray from birth. As soon as you're born, you go astray from birth. That's why Yahushua, when he was born during this Chag Matsah, this time, guess what? He didn't go astray when he was born. He kept going all the way to the end of his life. Matter of fact, he made sure he was cleansed every single year from the first day to the 16th day. And he did this thing all through his life. Speaking lies. Right? You just uncover one lie, a couple of more lies. Right? But at the same time, you're speaking lies. Why? They have venom like the venom of a serpent. He said, you just like a serpent, Nakas, the old dragon. The old Nakas, the old dragon. And like a deaf adder that stops its ears. He said, you stop your ears from hearing. You say, you like a deaf adder. You see any ears on a snake? Ain't no ears on a snake. A snake has no ears. He said, you like a deaf adder. So that it does not hear the voice of charmers. He said, I'm trying to charm you. Yahuwah said, I'm trying to charm you. He said, I'm trying to charm you like a snake with no ears. What? Or the charming of the enchanter. He said, that's what he's trying to do. That's what Yahuwah is trying to do. He's trying to enchant you and charm you. You earless snake. You can't hear from the right ear or the left ear. He said, you earless snake. And guess what he says? Oh, Elohim, break the teeth in their mouths. He said, break the teeth. I mean, he's going to punch you in your shin. That is the 21st letter of the Abyb. Ain't that amazing? And what today is? The 21st day. This is the 21st day. He said, I'm going to punch you in your shin. That's the 21st letter of the Abyb. I'm going to punch you in your shin. And guess what he said? Tear out the fangs of your young lions, O Yahuwah. That's what he's going to do. He said what? Let them vanish like water that runs away when the arm aims his arrows. Let them be blunted, right? So what does all this got to do with anything? He said, why Yahuwah come out like that? Because everything happens for a reason. He only comes out like that because he wants people to understand who he is and why people need to pay attention to the sound, to his understanding. Because if you don't, you're going to be just like this. This is Romans chapter 3. Romans chapter 3 and verse 9. Romans chapter 3 verse 9. Romans chapter 3 and verse 9. It says, what then? Are we Yahudim any better off? Are we? Not at all. For we have already charged that all, both Yahudim, Greeks, barbarians, everybody on earth, are all under sin, as it is written. None is righteous, no, not one. No one understands. No one seeks for Elohim, no one. All have turned aside, together they have become worthless, idle. That's what a worthless person is. They're idle-minded. They become idle. No one does good, not even one. They say they don't even judge properly. They can't even judge properly. They can't even see the smallest thing. Get what it says? Their throat is an open grave. He said, man, everything you come out of your mouth is death, is sin. It's all kata. It's the voice of an asp, an earless snake, a serpent. They use their tongues to deceive. He said, you like an Akash in the garden. And guess what else? The venom of asp is under their lips, lies. He said, all lies is under their lips. The mouth is full of curses and bitterness. He said, that's all it is, full of curses and bitterness. Why? That's what comes out of an asp, a serpent. That's what comes out of their mouth. Curses and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood, and in their paths are ruin and misery. And the way of peace they have not known. There is no fear of Elohim before their ayin. What's the fear of Elohim? His debar. It ain't before their eyes. They can't see it. So therefore, being that it ain't there, they have no lamp unto their feet and a light unto their pathway. Their ayin are darkened. And guess what? When he said, when you're like that, then there's a lot of things that's going to take place in your life that you don't want, right? So when we go back on the timeline, look at the Chag Matsah, look at Achad, Chdsh, we look at the first month. So the first day of the month, it was very key. We started on the first 16 days of purification and cleaning. And those first 16 days were a part of this whole truth, right? The first 16 days was a part of it. And being that the first 16 days was a part of it, you have to understand it on that level, right? Remember 2 Chronicles chapter 29 and 15? They gathered their brothers and kudash themselves, right? That's what you got to do. You got to always make sure you kudash yourselves, and went in as the king had commanded. By his word, by the words of Yahuwah, to cleanse the house of Yahuwah. So that's what you got to do, to cleanse the house of Yahuwah. Right? And sometimes you might find a snake up in there. The Kohanim went into the panima of the house of Yahuwah to cleanse it, right? You got to cleanse your panima. And they brought out all the tuma that they found in the temple of Yahuwah, in the court of the house of Yahuwah. So that was at the tuma, right? At the vestibule, right? At the court. And it says, and the Levites took it and carried it to the brook Kidron, or you say the Nakala Kudron, right? They began to consecrate from the first day of the first month, and on the 8th day of the month, they came to the vestibule or the Elul of Yahuwah. Then for 8 days, they consecrated the house of Yahuwah, and on the 16th day of the month, they finished, right? So you look at all that. So why is this important, right? So the 13th day, the 13th Yom, the disciples had a preparation for the Pesach. They asked Yahusha, what are we going to prepare the Pesach? Then on the first Yom, in between the suns, Pesach Yahusha, the Pesach lamb, Yahusha Mashiach, was sacrificed for Yasharah. Then on the second day, the 15th Yom, it said they rested according to the Shabath commandment, first day, right, of Chag Matsah. That's what we did. This is all key. A lot of these things that people don't understand, male and female, this is why a lot of them are going to get possessed by Satan in the next 49 days. Shaitan going to take over their mind because they don't understand. Right? So that 16th Yom, the priest had to be purified and ready for the third day. Why? Because that's what the 16 days. That was the first 16 days. The 17th day, Yahusha rose from a brand new tomb. Right, because the 16th day of even, he rose on the 17th Yom. The 18th Yom was the 4th day of Chag Matsah. Yahusha revealed and appeared and confirmed to his disciples. That's what he did on the 18th Yom. The 19th Yom, Chag Matsah continues. The 20th Yom, Chag Matsah continues. So you got to ask yourself, did Satan, Shaitan appear during that time? Did Satan come on the 18th Yom, 19th Yom, and the 20th Yom? Did you see him? Most people will say, I ain't seen him. I saw him. He said, I saw him. And guess what I did? The 21st Yom, Kudash Mikra, that's today, resting according to the Shabbat. Guess what? That's all a part of it. So what does this got to do with anything? We got to rest according to the Shabbat on the 21st Yom. This is Hebrews chapter 4, 6 through 11. Since therefore it remains for some to enter it, and those who formerly received the good news failed to enter because of disobedience. Why? Because he said, why? Because they still won't obey. He said, when you got the serpent, when you got bit by the serpent, you know what happens? You know what happens when somebody get bit by a cobra or a snake? They go to sleep. He literally bites you on your neck and on your arm, and you go to sleep. That's what the snake does. That's what the snake does. A rattlesnake, a cobra. That's why they gotta get anti-venom. This is anti-venom. Again, he appointed a certain day. Today says through Dawid, so long after. In the words already quoted. He said, we already said this. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. That means your 12 cranial nerves, your lab, your kashma, your ayin, your ears. He said, how do you harden your heart, your mind, your eyes, your ears? You harden your back, you harden your neck, right? All these things you start to harden. He said, today, if you hear his call, harden not your heart. For if Yahusha had given them rest, Yahuwah would not have spoken of another day. If Joshua, because we talked about Joshua leading the people. Joshua led the people. He said, I've strengthened you. I commission you. Even as Messiah was, so will it be with you. Then Yahuwah would not have spoken of another day. Later on. What day was that? What do you mean another day? Because it was another day when Yahusha was going to come and give them rest. Because we didn't have no rest with Yahusha, with Joshua. Then after then, there remains a Shabbat rest for the people of Yahuwah. That's what we're doing today. For whosoever has entered Yahuwah's rest has rested from his works as Yahuwah did from his. Why? Because some people like to work on Shabbat. Some people like to work during these 7 days of Chag Matsah. Or you say, because they like to work and they don't actually put Yahuwah first. They put their money, their cars, their finances and everything first. And if you keep putting those things first, then Yahuwah says, I have no need for you. I have no need for you. And you know what happens? Then they forget to watch. They forget to judge properly. They forget to do the things they have to do in their life. And then they wonder why everything's in haywire. Verse 11, let us therefore strive to enter that rest so that no one may fail by the same sort of disobedience. What do you mean same sort? Because they doubted. They argued, they fight, they quarreled. They thought they could see. Maureen thought she could see. She thought she could correct Messiah. Right? They had many other things that they did in the wilderness that none of them got in. For the word of Yahuwah is living and active. It's still living and it's active. It's still here. He shot those arrows up 5,000 years ago. He shot them arrows up 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 13 years ago. He shot his arrows up already here. It's still up in the air. And they haven't come down yet. Sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing the division of soul and ruah. It's stronger than Qahalath Goliath's sword. piercing division of soul and ruach. It's separating your nefesh from your ruach man. Of the joints and marrow, discerning the thoughts and the intentions of the heart. Why? Because when somebody knows Yahuwah is talking about them, he knows that your thoughts and your intentions, how you say your makashba and your yetzer is evil. So he's talking to you in order to convince you that he's not your enemy. That's what he's trying to do. And no creature is hidden from his sight. So if you're thinking you are hid, you're not. You're literally in his presence right now. But all are naked and exposed to the eyes of him to whom we must give an account. That's why Yahushua, when he was washing their feet, he took off his robe and he was right there washing their feet, and they all had sinned. He was right there washing their feet, and they all have sinned. Everything was naked and exposed. He was naked and exposed, and he literally washing their feet, and they all had sin. And you know what? You know the sad part? 8 days ago, people think they still ain't got no sin because they did Pesach, and nobody can tell them anything. They actually believe this, but actuality, that's not the truth. This is Book of Sirach 23, 19 through 20. Such a man on woman only fears the eyes of men. They only fear what other people look, how they look, how other people see them. And knoweth not that the eyes of Yahuwah are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. It's 10,000 times brighter than the Shamash. Even though the Yark is the same size of the sun shines 7 times brighter, and the Yahuwah is 10,000 times brighter than the sun, the Shamash. So what light made the plants grow on the 3rd day? Yahuwah's light. Yahuwah is my light. Yahuwah or Yasha Yahweh Yahuwah Ma'uz Kai Bakad. Yahuwah's light made the plants grow on the 3rd day, because the Shamash was made on the 4th day. And his light shined and made the plants grow, and creating seed-bearing trees, making trees according to his kind. And guess what? Beholding all the ways of Adam, Ish, and Isha. He watching everything you do. And amazingly, Chag Matsah, he really watching it. He really watching the earth. He really watching now. He really, his face is always on the righteous. He was looking at all his children, and he watching everything you do. And if you do something wrong, he's going to correct you. He's going to correct you. And considering the most secret parts, that's why you need to watch yourself. He knew all things ere ever they were created. He said, I already knew before you even did it. So also after they were perfected, he looked upon them all. Say what? When does he do that? How does he do that? Right, this is the 7th day. This is the 7th day. He said when he was perfected, he looked on everybody. When did he do that? This is the 7th day of the Chag Matsah. It's a Shabath, which is the 7th day. It's the Zan. It means sword, knife, tongue, word, law, rest, perfection. He's looking at you. He's looking at you to see the defects in your heart and your mind, your 12 cranial nerves and your thoughts and your iron. He said, why are you still the same way? And he wants to know. He's talking to you. He's having a conversation right now. Nourished, formed, different kinds. It also means nourished, formed, different kinds. Cut or sort. Cut off or sort. That's how he does with his sword. Sword, sever, plow, weapon. This is the only weapon Yahuwah has. This is the only one he has. Right? All this is a part of it. So what does this got to do with anything? How does this got to do it? What does this got to do with anything? Right? This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 15, 19 through 32. And when a woman has a discharge, and the discharge in her body is blood, she shall be in her menstrual impurity for 7 days. See, so what we gotta say? Why we say 7 days? Why do we say 7 days? Because when did Yahushua get crucified? He was crucified on the 14th day, in between the suns. And guess what happened? What happened after that? Everybody was covered in his blood. Everybody had blood impurity on them. And guess what? They were all covered in his blood for 7 days. And it says, and whoever touches her shall be unclean until evening. So anybody a part of his bride right now, during that time, was unclean. for 7 days. And what today is? This is the 21st day. So you're still in the 7th day. You're still in that 7-day period. And everything on which she lies during her menstrual impurity shall be unclean. Everything. Everything also on which she sits shall be unclean. Everything. And whosoever touches her shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the evening. And whoever touches anything on which she sits shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until evening. Why? Because all this is all part of it. Because Satan don't want people to know these things. He don't want you to know it right now. That's why he's playing with everything. Shaitan. Whether it be the bed or anything on which she sits, everything. When he touches it, he shall be unclean until evening. Why? Because everything you're going to be unclean now. It's going to be unclean until evening. She's going to be unclean. He's going to be unclean until evening. And if any man lies with her in her menstrual impurity comes upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and every bed on which he lies shall be unclean. So why is all important? Just like it again, I guess he wanted me to do it again, right? This is Yochanan chapter 20 and verse 11. Yochanan chapter 20 and verse 11. But Miriam stood, this is John chapter 20 and verse 11. But Miriam stood weeping outside the tomb, and as she wept, she stooped to look into the tomb. And he saw 2 malachim in white sitting there. The body of Yahusha had lain, and one at the head and one at the feet. And they said to her, Woman, why are you weeping? She said to them, They have taken away my master, and I do not know where they have laid him. Having said this, he turned around and saw Yahusha stand. She turned around and saw Yahusha standing. She saw him right there. So she right there have a choice to either touch him or not. Because everybody got blood get on them. Everybody got sin on them. Right now. Having said this, she turned around and saw Yahusha standing. But Yahusha did not know that it was Yahusha. But she did not know it was Yahusha. Yahusha said to her, Woman, why are you weeping? What are you seeking? What are you seeking after? He said, you know what they're seeking after? They're seeking after their unjust gain. They're thinking about their money, because it's unjust gain to do it during this time. It's all unjust gain to seek after money. You can't serve Yahuwah in money, because money is the root of all evil. If you're seeking after money right now, during these 7 days, he said, guess what? It's the root of all evil. It's the root of your evil. It's the root of your evil in your life. That's why one doesn't azar. Supposing to him to be the gardener, she said to him, Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away. She said, Tell me where you laid him, please. Yahusha said to her, Miriam. She turned and said to him in Aramaic, Rabbani, which means teacher. They put that in parentheses too. Another lie, right? You got to make sure they put it there. But it says, Yahusha said to her, Do not cling to me. He said, Don't touch me. For I have not ascended to my Father. He said, If you touch me, I'll be unclean until evening. And then I won't be able to meet with my disciples when the 4th day come in. And I won't be able to reveal to them nothing. And I couldn't be boasting and telling them how wrong they are, old fools and slow of heart, to believe all that the Nabiim has spoken. I wouldn't be able to say that. I'll be a hypocrite. That's why he ain't do it. But go to my fathers and say to them, I am ascending to my Ab and to your father and to my father and your Elohim. Why? That's what Mashah did. He had to keep himself from women too. That's the only way you're gonna get the Qahalath bread. That's why Dawid had to keep himself keep himself from women only to get the bread. How you say to get the Qahalath bread? You know, the same bread that Yahusha got on the 4th day. When he rose from the grave and he appeared in the house, and he said, You got any food? And matter of fact, they say, and you know what they gave him? Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, I have seen the master that he has said, and says, I have seen the master. And that he had said these things to her, right? So he remembered that. Going to verse 25. Leviticus chapter 15, verse 25. If a woman has a discharge for many days, not at the time of her menstrual impurity, or if she has a discharge beyond the time of her impurity, That's beyond 7 days. How long do we cleanse ourselves? For 8 days, and then we go another 8 days to the 16th day. We do 16 days. Every bed on which she lies, all the days of her discharge shall be to her as a bed of her impurity. So it doesn't matter how long it is. She's still there. And guess what? Everybody, anything she touches is unclean. And everything on which she sits shall be unclean, as is the uncleanness of her menstrual impurity. And whoever touches these things shall be unclean. Imagine a woman living with you or being with you or married, and she unclean for a long period of time. Imagine that. And you can't even participate, touch. Nobody can touch you. Nobody can come near you. So you think marriage is about sex? Some people think marriage is about intercourse, having sexual pleasure. Imagine this. Imagine if this struck you right now. Where will your amunah be at? Where will your faith be at? Your faith going to be in your flesh. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to give up and you're going to go lay with somebody. And if your each won't lay with you, you go lay with another man and you commit adultery with him and make him an unclean double sin. That's what you're going to do. Think about that. As in the uncleanness of her menstrual impurity, and whosoever touches these things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until evening. He said you'll do that all the way to the evening time. That's what happens. But if she is cleansed of her discharge, she shall count for herself 7 days. And now we're talking about a person who's been unclean for a long period of time. And guess what? And he said, after you finish that discharge gone, you're like, man, it's gone. Okay. Count 7 days, and after that, she shall be clean. So imagine a person having a discharge gone, right, on the 14th day. In between the suns, and the discharge is gone. Finally, healed. Rapha, Yahusha cried out twice and gave up the ruach. And now she got to count 7 days and she'll be clean after this day, the 21st day. It says, and on the 8th day, she shall take 2 turtle doves, right? That's the next day, right? Or 2 pigeons and bring them to the priest. Why do you think Yahusha cried out twice on the totality? Why do you think he cried out twice? He did that for you. He did that for you. He did that for you. People say, what? He cried out twice for you. That's why he cried out twice. My Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? And they gave him sour wine, bitter wine, and he cried out again. It was for you. A woman that's in her menstrual cycle for a long period of time and never been cleansed. He did that for you. And guess what? To the entrance of the tent meeting, and the priest shall use one of the sin offerings and the other for the burnt offerings. That's why he cried out twice on totality. And the priest shall make an atonement for her before Yahuwah for her unclean discharge. Right? So what does that got to do with anything? This is the book of, all this is a part of it. This is the book of Luke, chapter 8 and verse 40. This is the book of Luke, or Aydah 8 and 40. The book of Luke, chapter 8 and verse 40. The book of Luke, chapter 8 and verse 40. The book of Luke, or Aydah 8 and 40. And when Yahushua had returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all waiting for him. And they were all waiting. Ain't that what we're doing? What are we doing right now? We seek a Malkuth to come. So what are everybody waiting on now? And there came a man named Jairus, who was a ruler of the synagogue. Yahushua wasn't even the ruler of the congregation, or the synagogue, what they call the Aydah. And falling at Yahushua's feet, he implored him to come to his house. That's the same thing Abraham did. When he saw the Malachim come, Raphael, Gabriel, and Michal came to his house, and he bowed his head. He like, please come in and wash your feet. Didn't he do that? And guess what? For he had an only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she was dying. She was only 12 years of age. And guess what? She was 12. She was 12 years old. Imagine that. Imagine that. But guess what? And Yahushua went. The people pressed around him, And there was a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years. So that's 12 years of your menstrual cycle. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? And though she had spent all her living on physicians, she spent all her money, she could not be healed by anyone. See? That stuff, and now you see why that stuff, what can heal a menstrual woman? Let's see. She came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment. He said he touched the fringe of his garment. She touched the fringe, the zizi of his garment. What's in Aharon's? What's in the Aharon, the ark? Aaron's rod that budded is in the ark. Aharon, Aaron's rod that budded is in the ark, in your treasure chest. It means blossom. It work with blossom with ZZ. That's a ZZ. It's in your treasure chest. And guess what? She could not be healed by anyone. She came up behind him and touched him at the fringe of his garment, the four corners of his garment, and immediately her discharge of the blood ceased. Why? Because what Yahushua was carrying inside of him was a little different than what the other people were carrying. She was what? Immediately her discharge blood ceased. So you think her discharge blood ceased right here? Completely. Do you think that she was completely healed? It was a long time, and she was healed in her body, her natural flesh. Right? And Yahushua said, who was it that touched me? Amazingly, what did it say? What we just read in Leviticus chapter 15:21? Whosoever touches the bed shall wash his clothes and be bathed himself. This woman was in her menstrual cycle, and she just touched the man, and that would make Yahushua unclean right here. That would make him unclean. But guess what? For some reason, when she touched him, it was a different effect. It didn't make him unclean. It healed her uncleanness. It healed her menstrual. And guess what she got to do after that? She got to count 7 days, and she got to go to the Shabath. You got to keep the Shabath. And if you don't keep the Shabath, what do you think going to happen to you? Your menstrual cycle will come just like back the way it was. Yahushua was unclean right here. So you thought. She just touched his garment. That would make his garment unclean. If you only think about this according to the flesh and your little clothes you got on, you ain't going to understand nothing that just happened. Because you so worried about the clothes. Because the clothes unclean, but he said, Yahuwah judged not according to the outward man. He judged according to the heart and the mind. But guess what? And who was it that touched me? And he had the clothes on. And when all denied it, Koph said, Master, the crowd surrounded you and are pressing in on you. But Yahushua said, someone touched me, and I perceive the power has gone out from me. He felt his energy leave. And the energy he was carrying healed the woman of her discharge. The Koach he was carrying, the Arun he was carrying, the Kaparoth he was carrying, healed the woman. It healed her. And when the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling. That's what you should do. You should come confessing and trembling. Why? Because she thought he was unclean. You know why? She's like, man, I done made the man unclean. She was trembling and falling down before him, just like Abraham did, just like Mashah did. She said, why is this branch? She was wondering. She know why she fell down? She was wondering, why is this bush not consumed? Why is it not unclean? Why is he not consumed? And falling down before him, declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. And he said to her, daughter, your Amunah Your Muna has made you well. Go in shalom. Your belief. Your belief. That's what made you well. That's the only reason you was able to discharge any virtue from me. You couldn't take no virtue from me if you didn't believe I had it. You couldn't. That's what Yahushua said. You had to believe that I even had it. If you didn't believe I had it, then guess what? There's no way you can be healed. All you got to do is touch it. And he goes away. This is book of, going back to Leviticus 15:31. Thus you shall keep the people of Yasharal separate from their uncleanness. Therefore you shall keep the people of Yasharal separate from their uncleanness. What do you think Yahushua just did right there? He just separated her from her uncleanness. Lest they die in their uncleanness. Why do you think he did that? So she won't die in her uncleanness? By defiling my tabernacle in their midst. That's what she was trembling for. She thought people was going to get defiled. She was trembling. She was scared to death. Verse 32. This is the law for him who has a discharge, and for him who has an emission of semen, because they're unclean thereby. What did Yahushua just do? She said, man, I felt virtue going out from me. I just felt something emit from me. Just like a woman would lay with a man. And guess what happened? Some semen came out. Becoming unclean thereby. Also, for he who is unwell will be with her menstrual impurity, that is, for anyone, male or female. Now you see why both a male and female was in that whole situation. Because Yahushua came, he said, behold, I come in the volume of the book. It's written of me to do thy will, O Yahuwah, who has a discharge, and for the man who lies with a woman who is unclean. Why she thinks she was unclean? She was an unclean woman who touched him. And a discharge came out. But he had to make sure she ain't die in her uncleanness either. Matter of fact, he cried out twice on totality to do it again. All at the same time. Right? This is a book, so that word for discharge is zub. He said the woman who has a discharge, that's zub. It means to flow, to gush, to issue, to discharge, to gush out, to die, to pine away, to flow. Zub. He says, so why is this important? This is why it's important. Let me show you why it's important. You see, what did it start with? Azan. Azan, what today is? The seventh day. Perfection. Sword, knife, wrestle, law, perfection. All these are a part of it. It starts with Azan. It's all a part of it. He cut away the actual uncleanness from her body. He removed it from her. On this, and guess what? She had to count 7 days to get it removed. And what today is? And he said, man, I felt virtue go out. And you know, people said, that don't mean nothing. Well, that word for blood, guess what? When a woman has a discharge in her body is blood. What do you mean blood? Dam. That word for blood is dam. The word for blood is dam. Just like Adam. And amazingly, Adam starts with an aleph. So who do you think was the strength of that blood that made that discharge go away? The man, the male, Adam. The woman was the dam. The one with all of the discharge in her body. And guess what? You put an aleph in front of it, it's Adam. He's the strength in the blood. He said, man, I could take that blood away. You know, that little menstrual you have for a long period of time. All you gotta do is be connected, male and female, Zakar Nakabah, back to me. Remember, Amuna, boom, healed. Knowledge, Binah Hakman Da'ah, understanding. Store it in your room, your ark. Store it in your ark. It means blood, wine. Why would it say wine? Because he told them people, why would he say that? Why would he say that? when Yahushua was going to take the Pesach, he said, I'm not drinking of it until I drink it in my Malkuth anew. Guess what? Of a man or animal, or analogy, juice or grape, right? Blood shed, right? All that's a part of it, right? So that word for menstrual impurity is nidah. He said, she shall be in her menstrual impurity for 7 days. That word for menstrual impurity is nidah. It means impurity, filthiness. Menstruous, set apart, ceremonial impurity, nidah. Ceremonial impurity, immorality, rejection, right? You're gonna be rejected. If you in Yasharal and Yehuda, if you in the world, ain't nobody gonna reject you. You can do all you want. Right? That's why a lot of people got all diseases today, right? Remove, separation, uncleanness, right? Incest. He said, yeah, filthiness. People say it's clean. No, it's filthy. Filthy. Set apart. Right? Right? So that word for uncleanness, unclean in this verse, right? It says, and if a man lies with her in her menstrual impurity and comes upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and every bed on which he lies shall be unclean. It's like a disease transfer. You transfer it to me, then I transfer it to a couch, transfer it to a car, transfer it to anything. But it says what? That word for unclean is tameh. It means sexually, ceremonially, right? That means sexual. That's why you think he told us for the first 16 days to move your tumor out of the house? Why? A tumor. These are all a part of sexual desires. He was telling for the first 16 days to remove all sexual desires out of your life. Remove these things. This is a part of the cleansing process. And if your menstrual impurity hit, one had to understand what to do. I can't make my Ish unclean. I can't make my Ish unclean. I can't make my Ish unclean. I can't make Yahusha unclean. That's why he told the woman to move out the way. I can't make him unclean either. Right? Defile oneself, to be defiled. Sexually, idolatry, right? That's why we're talking about discharge. Unclean, right? To be foul. You'll be foul. Right? So a typical menstrual period lasts between 2 and 7 days. He says, so why are we talking about this? 2, we just read 2 days. How many 2 turtle doves? People say, why did he tell you to bring 2 turtle doves? 2 or 2 this or 2 that. Why do you think Yahushua cried out twice? Between 2 and 7 days. Now think about it, your menstrual was started from the first day to the 16th day. Right, it'll be a lot of days where you got to purify yourself. This is why he told us to cleanse ourselves for the first 16 days. Why? Because this is all a part of it. Because when the woman came to touch him, nope. And then this is the 21st day, so you think it stops? You know, people say, it stops. I can just do what I want. Although some individuals may experience bleeding for up to 8 days. And people say, why you be telling us to cleanse it for 8 days? Cleanse the house of Yahuwah. Then for another 8 days, clean yourself to the 16th day. While the average is roughly 5 days. Variations in length are normal, generally occurring every 21 to 35 days. And people say, what? So imagine you abstaining from Yahuwah, abstaining from all these things to the 16th day of this month. Keeping Chag Matsah, abstaining, and you see Yahusha, when the woman met Yahusha, she had to make a decision. Do I go back and start committing intercourse, or I continue to follow his instructions and go tell the disciples? You have to make a decision. She had to make a decision on the 16th day, either to go back to what she was doing, or to continue to follow the instructions of Yahushua Mashiach and tell his disciples to meet him in Galilee. She had a decision to make. She didn't have to do that. She didn't have to be obedient to his debar that he said. She didn't have to do it. She could have went right back. But no, the 16th day turned into the 17th day. 17th day turned to the 18th day. Then the 18th day, they had to finish it out to this day, which is the 21st day. Get what it says? Bleeding lasting longer than 7 days is considered heavy and prolonged. Why do you think the woman was healed as soon as she touched him? She was in there 12 years. She was in there for a long period of time. You even had a young girl, she said, man, 12 years. She was 12 years old. And then you had a woman issue of blood for 12 years. And you say 21 days, what today is? What today? This is Leviticus chapter 18 and 19. You shall not approach a woman to uncover her nakedness while she is in her menstrual uncleanness. Leviticus 20:18. If a man lies with a woman during her menstrual period and uncovers her nakedness, he has made naked her fountain. And she has uncovered the fountain of her blood. Both of them shall be cut off from among their people. Why do you think Yahushua died for your sins? He said, why Yahushua did that? Why Yahushua cried out twice? He did it to save your life. Should we continue in sin that con may abound? Absolutely not. Make sure you count 7 days. And if it's longer, after that 7 days is over, make sure you count 7 days after that. To make sure. Ezekiel, Yekaziel, chapter 18, 1 through 9. The word of Yahuwah came to me. What do you mean by repeating this proverb concerning the land of Yasharal? The fathers are eating sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. Everybody eating rotten food. As I live, declares Yahuwah Elohim, this proverb shall no more be used to you in Yasharal. Behold, all souls are mine. So whose souls are they? Ain't your souls? All the souls and the flesh are mine. Why do you think Yahushua died for your sins? They're all his. Souls of the Father as well as the soul of the Son is mine. The souls who sin shall die. You touch a woman in her menstrual and you lie with her. First of all, she got to say unclean, unclean. If she don't, and a man touch you, then he unclean. And then say if he got to do an offering, then guess what you just did? You caused that man to not be able to do his offering properly. You caused a person to sin. And he gonna do it anyway, not knowing that he touched you and you didn't know that he was unclean. He said in ignorance. Like they said. And how you would look at that. Verse 5. If a man is righteous and does what is just and right, if he does not eat upon the mountains or lift up his eyes to the idols of the house of Yasharal, does not defile his neighbor's wife or approach a woman in the time of her menstrual impurity. Did Yahushua approach that woman? See, people say, Yahushua approached the woman. No, the woman approached him. The woman approached him and touched him. He didn't know she was in her uncleanness, in her menstrual. But still, she was going to touch him and she was going to make that man unclean by not saying anything. And she fell down trembling. And guess what she did? You know what Satan would do? Satan would be like, yeah, touch him, make him unclean. And then I'll lie and say he approached me, right? That's what Satan do. That's what Shaitan do. I didn't know. He said, I didn't know. But being that you a believer, your Amunah has made you well. I know the people in the Torah are going to try to trip me up, but Yahushua runs circles around your life. Verse 7, does not oppress anyone, but restores the debtor his pledge, commits no robbery, gives his bread to the hungry, and covers the naked with a garment, does not lend at interest or takes profit, withholds his hand from injustice, executes true justice between man, and woman, walks in my statutes, keeps my rules, and acts faithfully, he is righteous, he shall surely live, declares Yahuwah Elohim. So you think that woman ain't know that? She was scared to death. She trembled. I'm sorry. I knew I was unclean and I touched you and I made you unclean. So she thought. This book of Bereshit, chapter 2, 15 to 24. And Yahuwah Elohim took Adam and put him in the gun of Aydah to Abyb and keep it. Why? Because this is all important. You got to see it. You have to see it because it starts with an ayin. And Yahuwah Elohim commanded the man, saying, You may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it. You shall not eat. For in the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. So where was the Isha at? She was inside of him. She was inside of his body. So you're inside of this body, this household, and I'm saying this, so therefore it's just like you heard it. Even if you're not here in the body, and he said, I can't physically see you, therefore, understand I'm talking to you. I can't physically see you, but I still know you hear me. And therefore, I'm talking to you as well. Then Yahuwah Elohim said, it is not good that man should be alone. It's not good. I will make him a helper fit for him. Now out of the ground Yahuwah Elohim formed every beast of the field and every bird of the Shemaims and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. Whatever the man called every living creature, that was his name. So when Yahuwah brings you somebody, Yahuwah brought the animals. If Yahuwah ain't bringing the animals, then I assure you, it ain't from him. Because Yahuwah going to bring the animals. He going to bring them right to you. I assure you, you ain't got to do nothing. He's going to bring them right to you, and then you make the decision on what you're going to do. The man gave names to all the livestock and all the birds of the Shemaim and to every beast of the field, but for Adam there was not found a helper fit for him. He said, ain't nothing. He said the helper ain't doing nothing. So Yahuwah Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. He said, I need to make another person. And while he slept, he took one of his ribs and caught a selah and closed up the place with his flesh. And the selah that Yahuwah Elohim had taken from man, he made into a woman, an Isha, and brought her to the man. Then the man said, this is at last, and Shabath, bone of my bone, basar, basar, flesh of my flesh, she shall be called Isha, because she was taken out of the man. Right? It's male and female. What do you think the issue of blood is? Because when a man gets cut on his side, what happens? When you take out a rib, what happens? Blood, you get blood. You get dam. If somebody cut your rib out, a man right now, cut out his rib, right now, his 13 rib, you're going to have blood. You're going to have it. Even when you sew it up, you're still going to have it like an issue of blood right there. It's going to still be there. You're going to still see the wound. You're going to still see the blood coming off the side. You're going to have an issue of blood. And she called because she was taken out of the man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to Isha and the woman as well, and they shall be one flesh. The man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. That's why Yahushua was on the ground, took off his clothes and washed their feet. As a woman should. Now I ain't saying wash naked, but I'm just saying though, that's what he did. He took off his clothes and washed their feet. He washed their feet. He wasn't ashamed either. Amazingly, he wasn't ashamed. He took off his robe. He said, I wasn't ashamed. I ain't ashamed. Right, so that word for put, it says, and Yahuwah Elohim took Adam and put him in there. That word for put is nuach. He rested him in there. What today is? He rested. He made him quiet. What today is? This is 7 days. This is the 7th day of Chag Matsah. He says, be quiet, to cause to rest. That's what he's doing. You get what it means? Also, to let alone. Leave people alone. To have rest, to abandon, depart from, right? Obtain rest. Because there remains a rest for the people of Elohim. What do you think this rest is? Because the bar is quick and powerful. He put Adam and he nuach him in the garden. He caused him to rest, to permit, right? That's what he did. He caused him to rest, right? So that's what it says for him. It says put him is yanak. So nuach yanak. It says to rest. Again, nuach yanak, to rest. To have and make quiet, to allow to stay. He allowed him to stay. So to suffer withdrawal, to deposit, to remain, right? To obtain rest and open space, right? All that's a part of it. Right? So that word for Yahuwah Elohim said it's not good that man should be alone. That word for alone is, a helper is azar. That word for a helper is azar. Right? There was not a helper fit for him. The word for helper is azar, right? And guess what it means? It means help, succor, one who helps, aids. Aids in what? What is she aiding in? Amazingly, what does it start with? An iron, because you got to see it. You got to see it, and then you got to use your zan. You got to use your zan, because that's what today is. Sword, knife, wrestler, word, perfection. You got to see, you got to use your iron, because you in the garden, and you abide, and you got to see it, and you got to use your knife and your sword and use it for perfection, right? That's why when you see things something so small, you got to cut. You got to cut. You got to see for the chief, the head, the rosh, the mind. You got to cut. As soon as you see something that's wrong that one has done, he said, cut. Cut. If you see something wrong, you got to see it, right? Guess what it says? 200. Right, so you add it up, 270 and 7, right? It means equals to 277. That's what azar equals to. Equals to 16, which equals to 7. That's today. This is the 7th day. Imagine a woman counts 7 days, then after 7 days, she off. He said, now you can be in azar again. Because you can't azar nothing when you unclean, touching everything, unclean, sit. What kind of azar is that? You creating things you got to azar. And that's all a part of it. Because if a woman, if she ain't seeing, Isha is not seeing, then guess what? You're going to have little mistakes here. You got little mistakes there. You're going to have a mistake here and there. And the azar ain't going to say nothing. She ain't going to say nothing because that's not a azar sent from Yahuwah. That's Satan. That's Satan in one of the 12 cranial nerves. Because Satan loves sin. He loves seeing sin. He like people doing wrong, especially somebody he want to supplant and be over and be better than. That's what he does. Right. So that word for alone is bad, bad. It's not good that man should be alone. That word for alone is bad. It means alone, by itself. It's not good that man should be by itself. Separation, huh? Separation. Isn't that what we did for the first 16 days? If you did it properly, you will be alone. Separated. Separation, by yourself. Apart. Separation. That's what if you did it correctly. They say it's not good. Separation. It's not good for a time. But we had to do it all up until this day. And guess what happens? You are separated. And you know what else? It means what? Branch of a tree. Branch of a tree. Alone. Right? So you look at that word Bad, it means you got Ba'ith and Dalaf. Right? Ba'ith is a house, temple, Mishkan, Mikdash, Aydahchay, palace, tent, right? Dwelling place. Dalaf is door, entrance, portal, gateway, equals to 4. So you got 4. You add both of them up, equals to 6. What's the 630? Abyb, join 2, tent, pad. But it also means something else. But all this is important. He said you separated. So this person is separated by himself. That means he ain't having no intercourse. He ain't got no sexual partner. He ain't doing all these things that people do. You know what happens? What happens when you do that? When you separate your mind, your thoughts, and everything from you. This is the book of Daniel, chapter 10, verse 1 through 7. Daniel 10, 1 through 7. And in those days, Daniel was mourning 3 full weeks, which means he was bad. He was alone. There wasn't no Isha around. Not one. I ate no delicacies and no meat or wine ever entered my mouth. None. Nor did I anoint myself at all for 3 full weeks. And on the 24th day of the first month, right, that's coming up, I was standing on the bank of the river, and I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, and each clothed in linen, with a belt of fine gold of Uphaz around his waist. His body was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like gleaming burnished bronze, and the sounds of his words were as many waters. It says, and on the 24th day, so what day is that? That's 3 days from now. And the sound of his words are like the sound of a multitude, a harmon. And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision. For the men who were with me did not see the vision. Why? Because everybody wasn't in the same state of mind, in the same, consecration and separation as he was. Everybody wasn't doing it. But he didn't have no Ishars around him. And guess what? For the men who were with me did not see the vision. Because everybody ain't going to see it. Iron. With they iron, because they near ain't on. Their eyes ain't open. But a great trembling fell upon them, and they fled and hid themselves. That's what happens. They flee. Right? This is the whole point of it. That's what happens, right? This is the book of Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 3, and verse 1. I see 3 and 8. Bereshit 3 and 8. Genesis 3 and 8. Genesis 3 and 8. It says, and they heard this. It says, going to 3 and 7. Bereshit 3 and 7. Then the eyes of them of both were open, and they knew that they were naked. When Yahushua took off his robe, he ain't know he was naked. I'm sure he knew he was naked, but they knew he was. But I'm sure he wasn't ashamed though. He wasn't ashamed though. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. That's why they took off. That's why Yahushua took off his robe. He said he put it around his waist, just like a loincloth, and he took it off. And he was naked and he wasn't ashamed. He was going in reverse. And they heard the sound of Yahuwah walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahuwah, from the bread of his presence, because they weren't consecrated properly. Because they ain't cleansed themselves, and they didn't do the first 16 days, or the 17th, or the 18th, the 19th, and the 20th, or 21. So they hid themselves. And guess what? Elohim, he says, presence of Yahuwah among the Elohim among the trees of the garden. But Yahuwah called to the Adam, the man, and said to him, "Where are you?" See, he ain't looking for nobody else but him. Think about the Isha who's in her menstrual cycle touches the man. He said, "Where are you?" And he said, "I had heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself." And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree which I commanded you not to eat?" Right? You must ain't do it properly. Right, going back to Daniel chapter 10 and verse 7. And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men who were with me did not see the vision, but a great trembling fell upon them, and they fled and to hide themselves. So I was left. Right? So he was the only one left. It's not good that man should be alone, I thought. So I was left alone. He was by himself. Oh, that's like Adam. Before he was made, he had an Isha given to him. Just like Adam was. And I saw a great vision. That's how you're going to see it. You think Yahuwah going to give you a great vision with all these people around? No. He's not. He's not. And guess what? And no strength was left in me. He said, I ain't have no strength. What do you mean no strength? No strength was left in me. My radiant appearance was fearfully changed. He said, I was fearfully changed. And I restrained no strength. He said, I had no strength. Then I heard a sound of his words, and I heard the sound of his, as I heard the sound of his words, I fell on my face in a deep sleep. That's what happened to Adam, right? A deep sleep fell upon Adam, didn't it? And Yahuwah took a Selah from his rib. He's just like Adam right here, with my face to the ground. That's what Abraham did. That's what Meshah did. That's what the Isha did when she saw when the Malachi came. Everybody hit the ground with their faces to the ground in humility. Verse 10, and behold, a hand touched me, a yard touched me. And he set me trembling on my yard, my coffin, my yard, and my barak, my knees. He said he touched me. He said it wasn't no strength in me. Right, this is Matthew chapter 4 and verse 1. Matthew chapter 4. Matthew chapter 4. Matthew chapter 4 and verse 7. Matthew chapter 4 and verse 7. Matthew chapter 4 and verse 7. And Yahushua said to him, again it is written, you shall not put Yahuwah your Elohim to the test. And again Shaitan took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the Malkuths and the kingdoms of the world and their kabod. And he said to them, all these I will give you if you will fall down and worship me. He said, if you fall down and worship me. Where was Daniel? He was on the ground. He faced to the ground. And he was fasting just like Yahushua. And behold, a hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and my knee. He said, man, don't be, and get up off the ground. But Satan was like, just fall down and worship me, please. You shall, get what it says, be gone, Shaitan, for it is written, you shall worship Yahuwah your Elohim, and him only shall you serve. Then Shaitan left him, and behold, the Malachim came and were ministering to him. Because Yahushua was fasting, just like Daniel. But he said, then a man touched me after all that. After everybody fled, because everybody had to leave first. He said, why they left? This is the book of, he said, why you left alone? Because I thought it's not good that man should be alone for a time, right? Right, here we go. This is the book of Psalms. I think it's Talim. Yeah, Psalms. I don't even want to go there. Yes. Talim, Psalm chapter 119 and 113. Psalms 119, 113, Samak. Psalms 119, 113, Samak. I hate the double-minded, but I love your law, your Torah. You are my hiding place and my shield. I hope in your debar. Depart from me, you evildoers. Why do you think all the people hid themselves? They ain't see the vision. That I may keep the commandments of my Elohim. That's what he did. The first 16 days, I'm going to consecrate myself. Matter of fact, I'm going all the way to the 21st, 24th day. That's what he did. And guess what? Uphold me according to your promise that I may live. And let me not be put to shame in my hope. Because if you think about that one would have touched him, he would have been touched by Nisha and he would have been defiled. Guess what? He would have been put to shame. He would have been put to shame, right? Right. So that word for great river, it says on the 24th day of the first month, I was standing by the bank of the great river. That great river is Kadika. It means rapid. That's what Kadika means. The great river, it means rapid. Rapid. It means like a rushing water. It was like a rushing water. You better remember how the river and it's rushing down, the water rushing through, right? So that word for, it says on the 24th day, I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, an east clothed in linen. That word for linen is bod, the same word that we saw in Bereshit, for alone. The same word, bod. Bod. It means linen, white linen. Thread of yarn, linen garments, white. He said he was alone. He was separated. Separation, consecrated. What happens? And equals to 6, because we know Bayit, house, temple, Mishkan, Mikdash, Haikal, palace, tent, equals to 2, Daleth, door, entrance, portal, gateway. 6. 6, 6, 6. 6. He said he was in bad garments. And he said, why he in bad garments? He was in linen garments. He was in linen garments, right? Verse 22. So that word for burnished, it says, and his body was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, his eyes were like flaming torches, ayin ish lapid. His arms and legs were like gleaming burnished bronze. That word for burnished is polished, brightened. It means kulal. That word for burnished is kulal. Kulal. It means burnished. Kulal. That word, the same word, kulal, is in Ecclesiastes, Qahalath 7:21-22. Do not take to heart the things that people say. This is the problem when you start to consecrate yourself in the first 21 days. People start saying and doing things during that time. And guess what? You don't need to be, when you're in this type of situation, you kalal, and you in a consecrated state with bod garments on and you alone. He said you don't need to be taking heart to what people say. You know why? You're going to get entangled in your mind with their stuff. It's going to be in your thought process. It's going to clog your mind. Lest you hear your servant kalal you. Guess what it's called? It's called burnished bronze. And now it's making you a color of somebody. It's making you into the same color as this person standing right here. And it says, do not take to heart what people say, lest you hear your servant kulal. Your heart knows that many times you yourself have kulal others. Or you mean trifling? Saying things out of your mouth you shouldn't say. He said you did the same thing. Right, so that word for bronze is nakashah. His legs were like the gleam of burnished bronze. Nakashah. That means copper. Copper bronze. Copper. Base. Right? Copper, fetter. Right? It means lust, harlotry. Right? That's what you had to abstain from. All that stuff that people do. He said you had to abstain from all these things. You got to move away from these things. Why? This is how you get polished. This is how you get burnished. How you say burnished bronze? How you say? Kulal nakashah. You get polished. Right? You get purified. He said, how does one man? He said, this is only one person. This is only one person. That word for multitude, his words are like the sound of a multitude. That's what when he was consecrated, when he was set apart, when he was kulal, he kudash, when he was in white garments, when he was alone, bod, when he was abstaining from Ishad, who ain't kept the Ishad away from him, he didn't make him one, he was all consecrated. He said his one voice is like a multitude of people. A whole bunch of people. That's how Adam was when he was alone. That's how Adam was when he was alone. So he said, that's how he was when he was alone. That's why when one says, yeah, I don't have any Izar fit for him, so how are you when no one's around, when you're alone? Is your voice like a multitude? Because that's the whole point. Who cares? Right? Because Yahusha, this is Psalm 69. This is Talim, Psalm 69. This is Psalm 69 and verse 17. Psalm 69 and 17. Hide your face from your servant. Hide not your face from your servant, for I am in distress. Make haste to answer me. Wow, that's why we ate Pesach in haste. Draw near to my soul, redeem me, ransom me because of my enemies. He said, what are my enemies? You know my reproach, my shame, and my dishonor. My foes are all known to you. He said, you already know it. Reproaches have broken my heart, so that I am in despair. I looked for pity, and there was none, and for comforters I found none. He said, I looked for somebody, and there was nobody. A comforter, there was none. There was no Isha, there was no Azar, there was nothing. They gave me poison for my food. They gave me adders. They gave me lies. They gave me the venom of asps. They gave me lies. And guess what? And for my thirst, they gave me sour wine. They gave me the most vilest wine you could ever could think. Man, they gave me menstrual blood. They gave me dung. Let their own table before them become a snare. He said, everything you eating right now, he said, it become a snare to you. And when they are at shalom, let it become a trap. He said, it's going to become a trap. Let their eyes be darkened so that they cannot see. You can't be able to see it. Iron. And make their loins tremble continually. Why do you think that woman came to Yahushua as she touched him? She was scared of that. She was trembling before him. Pour out your indignation upon them, and let your burning anger overtake them, because people ain't afraid of Yahuwah's anger. May their camp be desolation. Let no one dwell in their tents, for they persecuted him whom you struck down, and they recount the pain of those you have wounded. Why? If you think you struck down, I mean you bow your face to the ground. Then they start persecuting you because you bow your face to the ground, because you humble or knew yourself. Then they start persecuting you. And to them, punishment upon punishment, may they have no acquittal from you. See, these are all the things that you want to make sure you don't do. Let them be blotted out of your book of the living. You don't want to persecute somebody who knew on the ground, humbling themselves. You don't want to do that. Let them not be enrolled among the righteous. Don't do it. But I am afflicted and in pain. Man, in pain. Let your salvation, Elohim, set me on high. Right? That's why Yahushua said, son of Adam, be lifted up. I'm going to draw people to myself. Right? So that word, going back to Daniel 6, 10 and 6. It says, and the sound of the words were like the multitude. That word for multitude is harmon. It means sound, murmur. Crowd, multitude, abundance, wealth. Everything he's saying is abundance, wealth. Where do you store the wealth at? In your money chest, in your arum, in your ark. His voice is like a bunch of treasure. He says, store it up in your heart, in your mind. It's like a multitude. It's like a whole bunch of people talking at one time. Abundance, noise, tumult, crowd. He said, how does one person, wealth, multitude, how does one person sound like a multitude? Right, the book of Daniel 10 through 17. And behold, a hand touched me, and set me on my hands, trembling on my knees. And he said, oh, Daniel, man greatly loved. Why would Yahuwah? He said he loved because from the first day to the 24th day of the month, he was doing some things. That's why he was loved. Yahuwah loves you if you did that purification all the way up until the 16th day. He loves you if you even continue on to this day. He loves you. He loves you. But guess what happens? Oh, Daniel, man, greatly loved. Understand the words that I speak to you. Understand. What? Stand upright. Stand upright for what? For now I have been sent to you. You say you can stand up now. What you doing? You were humble. You were down on the ground. A righteous man falls 7 times, right? How many times you bow your head to the east? As the prayer your code said. He would be, I bow 7 times to the east. And I bow 7 times to the north. Though a man falls 7 times, guess what? He rise up 8 again. That's why the woman had to do, after 7 days, she had to purify herself. And then what? After 7 days, after she got entered she had to count 7 days, and then on the 8th day, she offered her sacrifice. That's why Yahushua was there. That's why he cried out. A righteous man falls 7 times, an old woman falls 7 times and rise back up 8. You get back up. Because he had no strength in him, remember? It says, fear not, Daniel, for from the first day, Then, and when he had spoken this word to me, I stood up trembling. Then he said to me, fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humble yourself before your panim, before your face, your words have been heard, and I have come of your words. What do you mean? Daniel, from the first day. What first day? The first day of the first month. From the day you're supposed to start purifying, moving Aydah out of your tent. For 8 days, he came to the vestibule, to Ayulum, and then you went 16 days into Chag Matsah, and now we're on the 21st day. From the first day, you set your heart to understand. So if you didn't set your heart to understand and humble yourself before his face, your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. Whatever you said during that time, he comes and reveals more information according to the words that you've been speaking. And he starts to reveal more information. Who starts to reveal more information? I have come because of your words. What do you mean? The prince of Persia withstood me 21 days. What today is? This is 21 days. This is the 21st day. What do you think? What are you doing right now? What's going on in the world today? The prince of Persia withstood me 21 days, but Michal, one of the chief Tsar, came to help me. That's what this being is saying to Daniel. He said, I had a helper. I had a Nazar. Man, that Nazar came, and you know what that Nazar did? His name was Michal, Michael. Because that Aydah was nowhere to be found. But I had this Arch Malachim named Michal, who came and he helped me. He Azar. He was an Azar for me. Because for some reason, the Aydah was nowhere to be found. And I was alone, like Adam. But I had a bunch of Malachim around me. Because there'd be more with us than there'd be with them. And guess what? For I was left there with the king of Persia. He said, I was left there with them king of Persia. And he came to make king of Persia, and came to make you understand what is to happen to the people, your people in the latter days. For the vision is for days yet to come. He said, so what does this got to do with anything, right? So this is the book of Revelation, Hazum, Revelations. This is the book of Revelations. The book of Revelations. Book of Revelation, chapter 12. Revelations, Hazum, chapter 12, and verse 7. Revelation, Hazum, chapter 12, and verse 7. Now war arose in Shamaim. Michal and his Malachim fighting against the dragon. He said, what? He said, I'm fighting against the dragon. Who you say? Who came to help him? He said, man, he said, they were withstanding me. They were fighting me for 21 days. But then then Michal came to help me. In that 21 days, all these things coming at me. And he came and helped me and showed me why these things happened. And guess what? He came and he helped me. So please don't be thinking if you don't want to be in Nazar, ain't nobody gonna come help. It says that Michal, his Malachim, fighting against the dragon. So who you think fighting against the dragon? Because if your Aydah not helping you, Azar, and Michal has to come help you. That mean that Satan rose up in your household, in your life, in your Aydah, or in your Aydah, or in anything you're doing. And guess what? He trying to wreak havoc. And then you go fall on your face to the ground, and then you ask Yahushua Mashiach for help, and he sends Michal and his Malachim to help you because of all these situations that Satan and his workers are doing. Like Adam in the garden. What do you think Nakash was doing to the Aydah in the garden? She got the venom of asp in her mouth now. And guess what he did? Adam had partook and ate his as well, instead of waiting for a helper. Not from somebody created from him, but from someone higher than him. It says, and the dragon and his Malachim fought back. They're going to fight back. And so who you think you're going to be fighting against after the day? Because the Malachim be with you, right? He said, so who you think you're going to be fighting against? Because Michal is going to help me win. And the dragon and his Malachim fought back, and he was defeated. He said he was defeated. And there was no longer any place for them in Shamaim. He said ain't no more place in them. And the great dragon was thrown down. That's what's going to happen to you. That's the way you're going to defeat Satan. Why do you think Satan Yah had to hit the ground in the apocalypse of Satan Yah? He saw all his sins in the manuscript, and he fell and hit the ground. He says, Yahuwah, have mercy on me. That's the only way you're going to beat Satan. When you appear before Yahuwah, he said, I'm glad I'm not like this tax collector. I'm glad I'm not like him. Because I fast 3 times a week. I pay tithes of all that I have, and I do all these good deeds. But him, he a sinner. Look at him. And guess what the man said? He bowed his head to the ground. He said, man, Yahuwah, have mercy on me, a sinner. He said that person went more justified. But guess what? You know what people say? I'm so righteous and true. But in actuality, and the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent, that the dragon and the Chdsh, that liar, who is called Shaitan and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. And he was thrown down to the earth, and his Malachim thrown down with him. That's a whole nother set of Malachim. Not according to the set of Shemjaza, Azazel, Asbal, and Amaros, and Penuel, and all the other fallen. But these others fallen Malachim even have fallen even the last 1,000 years, the last 100 years, the last 50 years, maybe the last 2 weeks have fallen to the earth. And they're here. The deceiver of the whole world, and he was thrown down to the earth, and his Malachim were thrown down with him. And I heard a loud voice in Shamayim, like a voice of a multitude, saying, now salvation and power and the Malkuth of our Elohim and authority of his Mashiach has come. What do you mean has come? For the accuser of our brothers have been thrown down. You Nakash. He's been thrown down. And I'm going to show you how. He has been thrown down who accuses them day and night before Elohim. And they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb. What we just did, Pesach. You conquered him. Or you just conquered him. By keeping Pesach. By doing and keeping remembrance of things that he did. You conquer him again. You conquer him again. He under your feet. He bowed his head. He in the Nakash. Remember, he stood Daniel up. He said, you will conquer him again. You, by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, or you mean the ChayParach that you put into the Ark of the Covenant. He said, I'm giving it to you to put inside of it. For they love not their lives unto death. Purify yourselves and abstain from all sexual intercourse, sexual desires. Purify yourselves and separate yourselves from all these people and be alone. Come together and do all these things and allow me to teach you to the bar. Because you ain't love your life unto death. You ain't loving your life. You know how people that love their life, man, you know what, forget about them 7 days. I don't care. Even though I did 16 days, I do them first 14 to the 15th day. But forget about the rest, because you know why? It doesn't really mean anything to me. I'll just go to work on the days that it says don't work. And I'll just do the things because I don't really care. And then guess what happens after that? Satan like, man, they ain't do all of the days. So therefore I can got them right where I want them. For they love their lives unto death. Therefore rejoice, O Shamayim, and you who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea, for Shaitan has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. Why? You know why? Because you just went from the longest day. You just went from winter to what? You just went from winter to summertime. He like, man, look at here. I only got 6 months to get my stuff done. Because my time is short. Because the 7th month come in, I'm in trouble. That's what he's saying. 7th month come in, I'm in trouble. I only got 6 months to run rapid inside of people's mind, heart, and their families and their life. I only got 6 months to tear everything apart. That's literally what he getting ready to do. Because that's all he does. He going to come at it full force. That's all he going to do. Yeah, my time is short. He got great wrath too. Because he upset. Because he ain't part of the covenant. He ain't circumcised in heart and flesh. He upset. Verse 15. And when he had spoken to me, going back to Daniel 10 and 15. And when he had spoken to me, back to the slide. When he had spoken to me according to these words, I turned my face toward the ground and was mute. He said that's why. He said he got a mute demon. That's why Yahushua was casting out the mute demons. Why do you think he was doing that? And behold, one in the likeness of the children of Adam touched my lips. That's what happens. Then I opened my mouth and I spoke. That's why Yahushua was casting out the mute demons. And I said to him who stood before me, O Master, by reason of the vision, pains have come upon me. Oh. And then what Yahushua said in Psalm 69? You know what Dawid said? He said, by reason of these vision, pains has come upon me, and I retain no strength. How can my master servant talk with my master? For now, no koach remains in me. None, no koach, no strength, and no breath, no neshama is left in me. He said, all this stuff is gone. I ain't got. Think about it. You go from 21 days. He's like, I ain't got no neshama. I ain't got no koach. I ain't got no strength in my body, and I done lost about 20 pounds. Man, my whole body, my mind, everything gone. What am I gonna do? I ain't got no koach in me. I ain't got no neshama in me, no breath. And again, one having the appearance of a man touched me and strengthened me. He did what? He touched you with his yard. People say, why the yard important? He touched me with his yard. And he said, oh man, greatly loved, fear not. Shalom be with you. Be strong and of good courage. He said, keep going. This is the 21st day. This is the 24th day, right? He's saying this, but he said for 21 days, which is today, they've been fighting me. But this is the 24th day, and that's coming up in about 3 days. And guess what? He said, man, keep going. Say what? So you want me to keep going? How am I going to do that? And he spoke to me. I was strengthened. And when he spoke to me, I was strengthened and said, let master speak, for you have strengthened me. When he spoke. Right, so this book, so that word for understand, he says, why is this important? Oh, it's very important. It says, fear not, Daniel, from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humble yourself. What do you mean set your heart? To understand. That word for understand is bane. That means beni or bane. Baith yo nun. It means what? And amazingly, what does this start with? When you look at Baith yo nun. It got a yard, it got a house, and it got a noon, right? And amazingly, he was weak. Remember? And guess what he said? And you know, Baith means house. I'm going to use basic term. House, hand, yard. He touched him with his hand, and his body is the house, and it gave him life, which is noon at the end, right here. He strengthened him just by touching him. Get what it says? To discern. Bane means to discern, to consider, to be intelligent, discreet, to give understanding, to teach, to separate mentally. Now, so that means he was alone to separate things mentally, to distinguish. That's what alone means. Ba. To separate. That's what we did for the first 16 days. To teach, to think. That's what all this intellect is for, to think. I got to think. I got to think properly. Right? So that word for bane, you see this word in Bereshit chapter 1 through 5. In the beginning, Elohim created the shamayim and the earth was without form and void. Tahu and Bahu, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Ruach of Elohim was hovering on the face of the waters. Ruach Marakaf al Panim. And Yahuwah Elohim said, let there be light. Let there be ore, and there was ore. And Yahuwah saw the ore, and it was good. And Elohim separated the light from, or being from darkness. That's what he says. You set your heart to separate light from darkness. You separated yourself from the dark things in the world. That's why we talked about the Brook Kidron, the Nakala Kudron, the dark place, the dusky place. You separated your house, your temple, and threw it in the what? Brook Kudron. And guess what happens? And Elohim called the light darkness, or Kashak, and he called the night Lail, and there was evening and there was morning the first day. Remember that Malachi said, he said, from the first day that you set your heart to understand. And humble yourself. That's the only way you're going to understand it. Before, he says, humble yourself. Your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. Your prayers, your supplication, the things that you're saying out of your mouth. I have come because of your words. So that word for humble is anah. And guess what? You humble yourself and you got to see it. You have to see it. It means to afflict. And you know what you did? To oppress, right? You oppress Satan. To humble yourself. That's how you defeat Satan. You oppress him. I don't want to oppress Satan, Shaitan in my mind. I love Satan. Now you got to oppress Satan. This is how you oppress Satan. Because Satan loves your flesh. Satan comes alive in your flesh. So when you humble yourself, you renew yourself, you anah yourself, then guess what? You oppress Satan. It means to humble, to be bowed down. To be humble, to humble. You do this to weaken oneself. To be downcast. To submit. That's why it says, wives, submit yourselves to your husbands. Why? As you do the master, Yahushua Mashiach. Who appeared to Daniel? Why do you think that woman said, even though the woman was there, he's like, don't touch me. But he did give her a commandment. He said, submit yourself. I know you're humble right now. And I know you did it all the way to the 16th day at evening time. And I know you're humble, but I need you to follow this commandment. And guess what? She submitted herself to her master. Go tell my disciples. And I'm sending you, humble woman, Mary Magdalene. She was a humble woman. She was. To weaken, right? That's what it's doing. Right? So that word for, and that word is for humble and for both words. I'm sorry, I didn't even say that, but for both words. Humble oneself. It's anah, right? Right. So that word for koach, that word for strength is koach. He said, how can my servant talk with my master? For now no strength remains in me. That word for strength is koach. It means strength of malakim. But we supposed to be like malakim, right? Human strength. Right? I got no human strength in me. Strength of animals. Right? I ain't got no, why do you think he said I ain't nothing? I ain't got no strength in no animals inside of me. That's why people eat animals. It's going to give me strength, right? This also means strength to produce, right? That means things you eat out of the ground. Right? It's a choice what you eat. Wealth or soil. He said, man, you got some wealth, boy. Wealth of soil. Ain't no koach. I ain't got none of that in my body. There's nothing in me. No natural fleshly food in me. Firm, vigor. It means literally force, right? Falls. How you make your falls? Come on. Guess what it also means? Hardiness. A large lizard, right? Ain't no shaitan, reptilian, shape-shifting demon inside of me. That's what he is. He a reptilian. He a Draco, right? Dracon, reptilian, three-fingered, four-fingered, winged lizard. It means what? Chameleon, right? Ain't no shape-shifting, reptilian lizard. He said that ain't got no control over my mind. That's what happens. You reptilian shape-shifting chameleon. Some people have even ascended to that level where they can even transform themselves into a snake in the physical reality, right? That's how wicked they are, right? But it also means what? Force, fruit power. What do you say? Fruits, might and power, right? Force, fruits, might, and power. They say, man, I ain't gonna give you no eating fruits. Ain't none of that in my body, right? There ain't nothing in my body, right? All this is all part of it. So what does it got to do with anything? This must be Proverbs 24, 3-7. By wisdom, a house is built. This is how you're going to build your house. How you think I ain't never built a house. Well, we just did from the first day all the way to this day. You see how your house is? He said, I want you to make sure you keep that house clean for the whole year. Can you do that? And people say, man, that's hard. I know. Because broad is the way to destruction, and narrow is the way to life, and few going to do it. They're going to choose. And by understanding is established. That's why I come because of your words. I'm trying to get you to understand that the path you're on and the things you're doing is exactly the way I like it. By knowledge, the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Right? A wise man is full of strength. So Daniel was like, I ain't got no strength in me. Right? And a man of knowledge enhances his koach. That's why he came to say, I came to give you the understanding of it. Now I'm going to enhance your koach. Because you thought man going to live by bread alone. But it's going to be by every word that comes out of the mouth of Yahuwah. And all I got to do is touch you with my yard. And guess what? You get strength. By wise guidance, you can wage your war. Because you're getting ready to fight a war with Shaitan. You know, Michael came and helped me. Michael and his Malachim fought against the dragon and his Malachim. It was war in Shamayim. And guess what? All these people now looking at Persia and all these things, he said, man, you might want to actually start preparing yourself. You might want to actually start preparing your mind. Because you thought things were over. It's Michael and his Malachim ready to fight against the dragon and his Malachim. It ain't the type of war you thinking. Right? You know what it says? And in abundance of counselors, there is victory. Right? That's the whole point. Wisdom, Hakmah, is too high for a fool. You know why it's too high for a fool? Because fools will keep standing up. Because they think they can jump and get it. You know how it is. Because they standing straight up. Yeah, jump and get it. The only way to get this Hakmah wisdom, you got to hit the ground. The only way you're going to beat Shaitan, you got to hit the ground. The only way you're going to do it, you got to anah. You got to hit the ground. Double. You know, amazing they had anah. I didn't point that out. But they had humble yourself. That means anah. Amazing you had to do it for 8 days and another 8 days. Anah. For the 2 Chronicles 29. And all that's a part of that whole thing. It says, in the gate, he does not open his mouth. He said, it's too high for a fool. You only open your mouth. And you know why? Because the Malachim appear to you and the vision ain't come to you. And therefore, you have no Hakmah and wisdom to pull from, and you have nothing to share. And therefore, you be like the other men who was around Daniel and just flee and run away because you didn't do it properly. Because they don't want to be able to hear that. And they can't open their mouth. Man, you know what revealed to me? Nothing. Because you ain't do it properly. Because because you have no words. And Yahuwah had nothing to say to you. And he ain't come because of your words. Who helping me? Who helping right now? The Malachim. I ain't have no strength. He said, my strength comes from the bar, right? So that word for, he said, there is no strength in me and no breath. That word for breath is neshama. He said that word for breath is, there is no neshama in me. No breath. Right? There's no breath in me. That word for breath is neshama. It means breath, ruach. That's what Daniel, he was at no koach and no neshama. That means breath, ruach, spirit, breath of man, breath of Elohim, every breathing thing. Right? He even had the strength of the Malachim inside of him. He was gone. Everything was gone. But then he came and strengthened him by the ruach man to fight that war he's getting ready to fight. And guess what? A puff, a wind, angry, it says vital breath, divine inspiration, intellect, right? Blast, an animal, breathing inspiration of soul and spirit, right? What's that got to do with anything? Right? This is Bereshith, chapter 2 and verse 7. Then Yahuwah Elohim formed Adam from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living creature. That word for breathe is nafak. He'd be like, what? What you just said? The word for breathe is nafak. Yeah, nafak. Right? They'd be like, what? Yeah, nafak. It means to breathe, to blow, to sniff. To breathe, to blow, to inflate. Nafak. Right? He said, man, you just know what you just said. No, it's not what they call. nafak, to breathe. Right? And you know what, if you say, what does na mean? Na mean in Abyb, it means to pray. We go pray. We go pray to inflate. We go pray to inflate. But it also means to expire. Why? Because everybody has an expiration date on their life. If Yahusha don't breathe into you, nafak, and guess what happens? You don't have no neshama, right? So that word for it, and he breathes into his nostrils. It says, and he breathes into his nostrils the breath of life. That word for breath is neshama. And that's what Daniel said. There ain't no breath in me. Neshama, it means what? Breathe, breath, ruach. Every breathing thing. Puff, a puff, wind, angry, right? We just talked about it. Inspirational intellect. This is the same thing, right? So this is the book of Yuchanan. This is the book of Yuchanan, Yuchanan chapter 20 and verse 19. The book of Yuchanan chapter 20 and verse 19. Book of Yuchanan chapter 20 and verse 19. On the evening of the day of the first day of the week, the doors being locked. What do you say, first day of the week? You know, people say that's the first day of the week. No, it was the day after the 2 Shabbats that they had. But it says on the evening of the first day of the week, they had 2 Shabbats. That day was a Shabbat. And then they said, and then it was the first day of the week, but it was actually the 16th day at evening, or the 17th, the 17th day at evening time. So it was the 17th day at evening time, right, of the first day of the week. After the Shabbat, it was 2 Shabbats leading up to the 3rd day. But it says, and on the evening of that day, the first day of the week, the doors were open on what day? On the 17th day at evening, right? The 17th day at evening. Doors being locked, the disciples were in for fear of the Yahudim. Yahusha came and stood among them and said to them, Shalom be with you. On the 17th day at evening time. It was at night time, which was the 18th day. And he showed them his hands and his side. He showed them his yard, his hands, and his side. Why? Because he had an issue of blood. You know that? You know, when he took Adam, he took his halal from his side. He had an issue of blood because he just pierced him in the side and out came blood and water. Remember, that was only 3 days ago, 4 days ago, right? And he had an issue of blood. He should have been, he was unclean, right? He would have made all them unclean, but we all unclean. We were all unclean to that. Even during that time, we were unclean. But we had an issue of blood when he was crucified. We had the blood all on us. We were unclean. Man, we were unclean for 7 days. We had to count 7 days to get that unclean off of us. Because remember how long we had that blood, how long we had an issue of blood? Since the beginning, since Adam, since he was made from the Adam, and he took the Ishah from his rib. We had an issue of blood for almost 4,200 years. 4,200 years. Man, they go deep too. There's a lot of other stuff I can say, but I ain't gonna say that. But think about that. And he said, you know what? Being that it's been for a long time, you know, on the 14th day in between the sons, you finally were no longer had the issue of blood, but you got to count 7 days, which is, today is the 7th day, so that then on the 8th day you are clean. So like when the sun goes down, guess what happens? And we almost there. And Yahusha came and stood among them and said, Shalom be with you. And when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his side, his yard. And when the disciples were, then the disciples were glad when they saw the master. Yahusha said to them again, Shalom be to you. Why he said peace, peace? Remember, everything Yahusha do, he said it again. Shalom, shalom be to you. As your Father has sent me, even so I am sending you. He said, my Father sent me. And guess what? whatever I see the Father do, I do the same thing. I'm going to send you, just like I sent that woman to you. The same way I sent a Malachi to Daniel. The same way I sent that man, he said, I come because of your words. And when he had said this, he breathed on them and said, receive the Ruach Qahalath. And then what happened to Daniel? They were all cleansing themselves. These disciples, Shalakim, were cleansing themselves the way they were supposed to do it from the first day to the 21st day. To the first day to the 18th day. And he told them, he breathed on them because they had no more strength in them. He said, receive the Ruach Qahalath. Because they were weak on the inside. Naturally, they were eating food and doing all that stuff like naturally people do. But he said, you ain't got no strength on the inside to fight against Satan. You ain't got no strength to fight against him for 7 weeks. You got no strength to fight him for 7 weeks. And we said, receive the Ruach Qahalath. If you forgive sins of any, they will be forgiven them. And if you withhold forgiveness from any, it will be withheld. That's what happens to you when you withhold forgiveness from somebody. Why? Why would you hold forgiveness from somebody? Because they ain't repent. They ain't humble themselves. You know, like Aydah, They ain't humble themselves. You gonna forgive a person who ain't humble themselves? When did Yahuwah forgive? Yahuwah said, you know what? He said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. But in order for them to understand him in the Torah, they're going to have to do what? Humble themselves. Aydah. You're going to have to do that. Because that's eternal life, to know him. But he said he breathed on them and they became a living soul, right? So this is, because these are all important. People say, why is this important? Everything happens for a reason. Or this is the book of Psalms. I think it's Psalms. Actually, yes. Yeshayahu. Go to Yeshayahu. Yeshayahu, chapter 57 and verse 17. Yeshayahu, chapter 57 and 17. Yeshayahu, actually go to Yeshayahu chapter 57, 16. Yeshayahu 57, 16. For I will not contend forever, nor will I always be angry. For the Ruach would grow faint before me. For the Ruach would grow faint before me. Now you see why all these things you got to put away. Anger. When you get humble, boy, I'm sure you ain't angry no more. You're like, man, but you weak. I struck him, and I hid my face, and was angry. Why? But he went on backsliding on the way of his own heart. I have seen his ways, but I will heal him. I will lead him and restore comfort to him and his mourners. What do you think they were doing? They were mourning. You remember he came to Mariam, she said, why are you sad? Why are you weeping, woman? Didn't he say that? Because you know why? Because he was gone. He wasn't there anymore. He was restoring comfort to the mourners. Creating the fruit of the lips. Shalom, shalom to those who to the far and those that are near, says Yahuwah. That's why he said shalom to them once in the house. He appeared to them, showed his hands and his feet, showed his hands and his side, and then he said, you know what? Shalom again. I came to what? Comfort the mourners. And I will heal him. He said, as the Father has sent me, I send you too. But the wicked are like the tossing sea. And what? For it cannot be quiet. That's what nuach meant. It meant rest. That's what anua means. That's what anua means. It means be quiet. It means have rest. He said they can't. Right, so going back to the slide, Bereshit 2 and 7. He says, and he breathed, he says, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. That's what he gave him. He said, he breathed on them and said, receive the Ruach Qahalath. Because they were weak. Right, this is the book of Shemuth, Exodus, Shemuth 25, 10 through, we're going to skip over some of this, 10 through 22. They shall make the ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits shall be its length, and 1.5 cubits its breadth, and 1.5 cubits its height. Ye shall overlay it with pure gold, inside and outside. Ye shall overlay it, and ye shall make it of molding of gold around it. You shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put on it 4 feet, 2 rings on one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side of it. You shall make the poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. You shall put the poles and its rings on the side of the ark, and carry the ark by them. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark, they shall not be taken from it. And you shall put the ark of the testimony that I shall give you. It says, then you shall put into the ark, the Aron, the testimony, the ChayParach, that I shall give you. What do you think this is? For the testimony of Yahushua is the Ruach of Naba, Ruach of prophecy. And you shall make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2.5 cubits shall be its length, and 1.5 cubits its breadth. And you shall make 2 cherubim of gold of hammer work. Going to verse 22. Actually, going to verse 20. The cherubim shall spread out their wings above, overshadowing the mercy seat, and their wings. Right, that's why 2 malachim at the tomb. And their faces one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall their faces the cherubim be. And you shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark. You got to put the mercy seat on top of the ark. And in the ark you shall put the ChayParach that I shall give you. Why do you think he was giving it to them? Right? Right, so this is the book of, he said you shall take it, and he said you should take it, right? We almost finished, right? This is the book of Yochanan chapter 16, John chapter 16, Yochanan chapter 16 and verse 12. Yochanan chapter 16 verse 12. And I still have many things to say to you. Man, it's a whole bunch. It's a lot more. But you cannot bear them now. Huh? You can't do what? Who's supposed to bear the ark? The priests, the Kohanim. They're supposed to nasa the ark. They're supposed to nasa the ark. He said you cannot bear them now. You can't carry them. That's what the ark is. We're reading right here. He said you cannot bear them now. When the Ruach of truth comes, so when the Ruach of truth comes, he will guide you into all truth. For he will not speak of his own authority. He said he's not going to speak of his own authority. But whatever he hears, he will speak. That's what. And what else? And he will declare to you the things that are to come. Why? He will kabod me, for he will take what is mine and declare it to you. The testimony, the ChayParach that you're supposed to put into the ark. He's going to take what is mine and declare it to you so that you may bear it. Because he just said, you cannot, I have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them in your ark yet. Because the ark was supposed, you're supposed to nasa the ark. He said you can't bear what's in the ark. You can't bear them now. He will kabod me, for he will take what is mine and declare it to you. All that the Father has is mine. Everything is his. Therefore I said, he will take what is mine and declare it to you. Because the Kohanim are the ones that's supposed to bear the Aron, the ark. Right? All right, going back to Shemuth, Exodus 25 and 21. And you shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark. And in the ark you shall put the testimony that I give you. There I will meet with you. Right? He said, there I'm going to meet with you. To do what? And from above, he says, there I will meet with you. Why do you think he met them in the house? Because he was going to take what is Yahuwah's and declare it to them. That they may bear the ark. Even as the Father sent me, I send you. That you may bear the ark, the Aron, the words that I'm speaking to you. That's what he did. So, verse 22. And there I will meet with you, and from above the mercy seat, from between the cherubim that are on the ark of testimony, I will speak with you. Why do you think he was crucified between two thieves? Why do you think you have two of everything? Why do you think you have all these you have two offerings, morning sacrifice and evening sacrifice. Those are two cherubim. That's what the morning sacrifice is. The Bakar and Abyb sacrifices. The Bakar and the Abyb sacrifices are the Malakim in the morning time and the Malakim in the evening time. And in between the Malakim and the evening time, he said, I'm going to speak with you in between the cherubim during the day. That's what the morning sacrifice is. The Bakar sacrifice is one cherub. The evening sacrifice is the Abyb is the other cherub. And in between, I'm going to speak with you. In between, I'm going to meet with you. That's what we're doing now. And he said, I have many things to say unto you, but you are not ready to bear them yet. Right? In Yochanan chapter 16. You're not ready to bear them yet. And he said, once you're able to bear them, then he's going to take what is mine and declare it to you to put into your Qahalath in your ark. In between the suns, in between the cherubs. There I will meet with you. So what do you think is happening right now? He's meeting with us in between the cherubs so you can put things into your ark. Right? And from above the mercy seat, from between the cherubim, that's what Bane means. Remember Bane, you separate light from darkness? That the ark of it says, the two cherubim that are the ark of the testimony. And I will speak with you about all that I will give you in commandment for the people of Yasharal. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of this. That word for ark is Arun. Aleph, Rosh, Wu, and Nun. Arun. It means chest, money chest, ark of the covenant. Right? That's what the covenant is supposed to be. In your heart, in your mind, in your inner man. In your tikfarah. A box. Chest. Right? All these are a part of it. Right? So that word for acacia is shitta. Right? So you telling me he nafak shitta in my shitta wood, acai wood ark. That's literally what he's doing. He said, breath in me. So guess what? I have to nafak in your room made of shitta wood. That's why Shaitan got people mind. He got people mind. He got their mind. He got a hold. That's why he said gonna be war in the Shamaim. Mike McCall, his Malakim, fighting against Shaitan and his Malakim. Right? It means acacia tree, acacia wood, shittim, scourging thorns. Right? That's why he said thorns and thistles is going to yield you, Adam. But why we say this? Right? This is the whole point. Yeah, so that word for it says mercy seat is Kaparoth. It means mercy seat, place of atonement, cover, a lid. Right? It's like a covering and a lid, because I don't think that was right. Yeah, because I said that wrong, but it says a covering, a lid, a sacred covering. Why? Because it's the same thing. Because that word for bearing of the Nysan, when you bear up the ark, is what? When you bear it, it's what? It's Nysan. And you put a lid on it. And you bear the Ark of the Covenant. Or if you can't bear the words that he's saying, if you can't carry them, and you can't remember them inside of your Arun, then you're not carrying it, which means it's too heavy for you. That's the only way. How is an Isha going to carry all of this? He said, giving honor to the wife as a weaker vessel, because she can't carry all of this. She can't carry all of this in her corporal. That's why he says, a woman shall not wear that which pertains to a man. There's no way you can put on this kili. You can't bear the Arun, Ark of the Covenant. You can carry it. If you can carry it, then you're a strong individual. But you know why? You know why they can't carry it? Because they're weak. That's why he tells a man, you got to be able to bear the words that I'm saying to you. Well, you don't have to carry it. It's just like somebody carry all your luggage. How much can you carry? I can carry that. Okay, I'll carry the rest. But we're going to get it up the mountain, though. But you carry that little bit right there, because I know you ain't strong as me, so I'm going to carry the rest of it. But I will still get it all up there, but you're going to have to carry a little bit. But I'm going to carry the rest of it, though. Just in case you forget something and you can't carry it, Isha, I'm gonna carry the rest of it. Now you guys ask me, it's in the Aron in the chest. You be like, what was that thing again? It's in the Aron in the chest. All you gotta do is ask. Yeah, and you say, why you just say ask and you will receive, seek and you shall find. I'm stronger than you. You can't bear my words. I can bear them all. I came in a volume of the book. You can't remember them all, can you? So that word for testimony is Aydah. The word for testimony is Aydah, and you got to see it. You got to see it. Just like a new one, just like all of that. You got to see it. You have to. It's testimony, Aydah. Aydah. Right? You got to put that thing in there, right? Aydah. You put it in your ChayParach, right? You got to put the lid on it. Right? You got to put the lid on it, it's Aydah, right? You got to put the lid on it. All this is a part of it. Because if you can't put this testimony, because the testimony of Yahusha is what? People say, why is this important? Right? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 19. Hazun, Revelation, chapter 19 and verse 10. Revelation, chapter 19 and verse 10. Then I fell down at the feet to worship him, and he said to me, you must not do that. I am your fellow Abyb with you and your Akim who hold the testimony of Yahusha Mashiach. You mean the Aydah, the iron. I hold it, I can bear it, I can bear the words. I can bear up the ark. I can Nysan the ark, the Arum. What? Worship Elohim, for the testimony, the Aydah of Yahusha is the Ruach of Naba, the Ruach of prophecy. Why? Because it's inside. I'm carrying it. Aydah. And I'm putting a ChayParach on top of it to hold it. And it has mercy on top of it. When you put the Aydah in the ark, and then you put the ChayParach on top of it, then you can pray to the ark. You can pray over above the mercy seat in the innermost part of yourself, and you will receive what? Mercy. Because this is the mercy seat. But first you got to put the Aydah in the ark. And then you put the lid on it. After when the sun goes down, you put the lid on it. Because the lid going to go on when the sun goes down. Then you go to the mercy seat. And then what do you do after that? After the 21st day. That's 7 days you unclean. Then you go to the 8th day when the sun goes down. Guess what you say? Yahuwah, have mercy on my soul. And you know what happens after that? What do you get above the mercy seat after doing all these days? You get mercy. You get mercy. That's what mercy is. You get mercy. Right, this is 2 Samuel, 2 Samuel 15, 24 to 37. And Abyb came to behold, Zadok came also with all the Levites, bearing the ark of the covenant. Right, he in Nysan. Because you just said, I have many words to say unto you right now, you can't bear it. But can you bear it now? And they set down the ark of Yahuwah until the people had passed out the city. Then the king said to Zadok, carry the ark of Elohim back to the city. If I find favor in the eyes of Yahuwah, he will bring me back and let me see both it and the dwelling place. So you mean if he showed favor to you after the sun go down, he said you'll both see it, the lid, the ChayParach on top of it, and the Aydah will be inside of it, and you'll get mercy. But if he says, I have no pleasure in you, behold, here I am, let him do to me what seems good to him, then he have no pleasure, then for the next 49 days, just understand. Like this, all the way to 49 days, right? Beating you for almost 49 days. The king also said to Zadok the priest, are you not a seer? Go back to the city in Shalom with your sons, Ahimaaz your son, and Jonathan your son, Abyb. See, I will wait at the fords of the wilderness until the words come from you to inform me. So Zadok Abyb carried the ark of Elohim back to Jerusalem, and they remained there. But Dawid went up the ascent of the Mount of Olives, weeping as he went. He said, why are you weeping? He said, I came to give comfort to the mourners. Isn't that what we just read in Yeshua 57? I came to give comfort to the mourners. Barefoot, with his head covered. He put the lid on the ChayParach. And all the people who were with him covered his head. Why? He put the lid on the cup of roll. Because, people were more worried about the natural Ark of the Covenant, not even knowing. And he said, all the people covered their heads, and they went up, weeping as they went. Why are you weeping? I came to give comfort to the mourners. Why do you think Yahushua appeared in the room? And it was told Dawid, Anaphel is among the conspirators with Absalom. And Dawid said, Yahuwah, please turn the counsel of Anaphel into foolishness. Who do you think that is? Shaitan. Michal and his Malachim fought against Shaitan and his Malachim. Right, so that word for barefoot is yakafeth, right? It means barefoot, bareness, unsandaled. That's why Yahushua told him to go out in Matthew chapter 10. He told him, Matthew Yahu, he said, go with no sandals on your feet. But then he told him to go with sandals on your feet. Then he said, take your sandals, right? Because he said, you know what? Then you're going to be leading them out. But he said, take no sandals this time. He said, I came to give comfort to the mourners. And guess what? Going to verse 32. While Dawid was coming to the summit where Elohim was worshipped, behold, Hushai the Archite came to meet him with his coat torn and dirt on his head. And Dawid said to him, if you go with me, you will be a burden to me. But if you return to the city and say to Absalom, I will be your servant, O king, as I have been to your father's servant in times past, so now I will be your servant. And then you will defeat me, the counsel of Anaphel. Are not Zadok and Abythar the priests with you there? So whatsoever you hear from the king's house, tell it to Zadok and Abythar the priests. Behold, their 2 sons are with them. There Ahimaaz and Zadok's son, and Jonathan and Abythar's son. And from them you shall send to me everything you hear. So Hushai, Dawid's friend, came to the city just as Absalom was entering Jerusalem, right? Right over for head cover is kafah. It means to be covered, overlay, to cover, to veil, to encase, protect, to seal, to cover. Oh, you mean a cup of roll. You mean a lid on top of the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark, he said, our room. Right? This is Psalms 40, 13 to 17. For evils have encompassed me. Beyond number, my iniquities have overtaken me, I cannot see. They are more than the hairs of my head, and my heart fails me. He said, I can't even see. I can't even see it. Be pleased, Yahuwah, and deliver me, Yahuwah. Make haste to help me. That's why we take Pesach in haste. That's what we get. That's what this Pesach is for help. Because your Azar, Abad are not helping you. So he sends his Malachi to help you. Right? Because you ain't got no Azar. Because everybody alone. Everybody is alone. That's the whole point of this whole thing. What do you think this is all about? To save yourself. What do you think it's all about? Why he makes us abstain from all these things and be separated and be alone and do all these things? It's so you can get help. That's the only reason he did it. Why do you think he did that? Let those be put to shame and disappointed altogether who seek to snatch away my life. He said, let them do. Let those be turned back and brought to dishonor who delight in my hurt. You persecuting somebody who ain't new. Enough. Let those be appalled because of their shame who say to me, aha, look what happened to you, but not even knowing. And you'd be like, man, why do you have them characters they be showing on television? Satan be like, aha. You'd be like, what does that mean? They had them cartoon characters, aha. And you'd be like, why he say that? Because that's Satan mocking you. People like, I have no idea. But may all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. May those who love your salvation say continually, great is Yahuwah. What do you mean? His salvation is great. As for me, I am poor and needy. You could be rich and still be poor and needy. You could have many things and still be poor and needy. You could have all the wealth and the riches in the world and still be poor and needy on the inside. People say, I want to put the ark, the Arum, next to another god. And then they get plagued. And then they want to know what happened. And Devarim 28 full opened on their whole life. You weren't circumcised when you got Pesach. Then you want to go and try to fast, do the this day, all up to this day. And you didn't do none of it properly your whole life. But Yahuwah takes thought of for me. You are my help and my deliverer. Do not delay, O my Elohim. This is why you can't do your own thing. He's going to delay when you do your own thing. He's going to be like, man, ain't nothing come to help me yet. Because you're doing your own thing. That's why he straightened out the path. He said, why? Because I'm trying to, so you stop doing your own thing. There's so many restrictions, so many things you got to do to where he has to, and you got to stay on the timeline in order for you to actually get it. Because this is important. Let me show you something, right? So that word for salvation is tashua. He said they encompass me on every side, so he has to put the tashua, the two, in the beginning of it. It means salvation, deliverance, salvation in spiritual sense, rescue, safety, salvation, victory. That's the only way you're going to get it. If they're on every side and you have no way to turn, right, in all four corners, tashua, Yahuwah. Tashua, because there's no way in the world. You're hedged in. Tashua, Yahuwah. Why? Because there ain't nobody. Deliverance. He said, okay, I'll send my Malaki. Because I can't. Tashua, Yahuwah. Right? 2. Right? So you look at Tashua is 2. 2 is 400. Shun is 300. Wu is 6. Ayin is 70. Ha is 5. So equals 781. 7 plus 1 equals 8. That's 88. 8 plus 1 equals 16. And that's the same thing you find in the first 16 days, right? But then now you're on the 21st day. And you had a choice on the 16th day at evening to either follow Yahusha, commandments, Isha, or Yahusha kept himself from women even after the 16th day. Or you could have just went back to what you were doing before. You had a choice. Hey, we are all unclean. And therefore, I can just go back to what I was doing and continue to be unclean. Or I can go to this 7th day, the 21st day, keep consecrating myself. And then when the sun go down, all I got to do is believe on the Son, Yahusha, because he already offered the sacrifice and the sacrifice after the 7 days of being unclean in your mystery. He already offered the sacrifice for us, I already offered the sacrifice. All you got to do, after he talks between the cherubim, between the morning sacrifice and the evening sacrifice, in between the cherub. And when he comes and meet with you, then when the lid get put back on, when the evening time comes, guess what happens? In the evening sacrifice, guess what you get? Mercy. But he sent his Malaki with his head covered to put it in your head. So who's greater? Who greater? Who's the servant? Right? So people got to look at that, right? This is Psalms 116, 1 through 19. I love Yahuwah because he has heard my voice and my pleas for mercy, because he inclined his ear to me. Therefore, I will call on him as long as I live. The snares of death encompassed me. The pangs of Sheol had laid hold on me. I suffered distress and anguish. Then I called on the name of Yahuwah, Yahuwah Elohim. Yahuwah, pray, deliver my soul. Gracious is Yahuwah, and righteous our Elohim is merciful. Yahuwah preserves the simple. When I was brought low, he saved me. Return, O my soul, to rest, for Yahuwah has dealt bountifully with you. For you have delivered my soul from death, my eyes from my tears, my feet from stumbling, and I will walk before Yahuwah in the land of the living. I believed even when I spoke. I am greatly afflicted. I said in my alarm, all mankind are liars. What shall I render to Yahuwah for all his benefits to me? I will lift up my cup to Yeshua, and call on the name of Yahuwah. I will pay my vows to Yahuwah in the presence of all people. Precious is in the sight of Yahuwah is the death of his faithful ones, his kasid, his kind ones. Yahuwah, I am your Abyb. I am your Abyb. Now you see why he said shalom, shalom when he walked into the house with the disciples. Shalom. And he said again, shalom. The son of your maidservant, Maureen. You have loosed my bonds. I will offer to you the sacrifice of thanksgiving and call on the name of Yahuwah. And I will pay my vows to Yahuwah in the presence of all his people, in the courts of his house of Yahuwah, in the midst of Jerusalem. In the midst, O Jerusalem, praise Yahuwah. Right, so that word for saints, Kodashim, is kasid. It means his faithful, his kind, his godly, his Qahalath ones, his saints, his pious, his kind ones, his faithful ones. Kind, merciful. He says kind, his saint, his godly man. Why? Why is this important? Right, so this is the book of, because everything happens for a reason. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 4. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 7. 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 But we have this treasure in jars of clay. What were your body made from? Adam, from the Dhamma. What do you think? It go into your Arun, in the Qahalath. You put the Qahalath, the lid on top of it. You put the Aydah inside of it. You put the Qahalath on top of it, and now you have these treasure in your body. You stored it in your treasuries. Guess what it says? But we have these treasures in jars of clay, to show that surpassing power belongs to Elohim and not to us. Who? Where is it at? In your innermost parts of yourself, where the mercy seat, where our Haruns brought that butter, right? You got the steps that go up to the mercy seat with the cherubim that touch the wall in your innermost parts of yourself, and then the mercy seat above it. And you're supposed to store all of this in there, and you have it inside. And the power doesn't even belong to you; it belongs to Elohim. And guess what the power do? I feel virtue go out from me. Did he lay hands on him? Did he do some special magical powers? No. Who did the work? Who did it? Yahuwah did it. Inside of him. And after, you know what it says? We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. In what we're doing now? He's like, well, all this affliction. He's like, man, I done lost. Man, he said, man, look at all this stuff that happened. He said, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not driven to despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. Always carrying in the body the death of Yahushua Mashiach. Or you mean carrying in your ark. Bearing the words, Aydah, in your Arun with the Qahalath on top of it. And you Nysan the ark. Always bearing the ark. Nysan the body, the death of Yahushua Mashiach. You remember his death and suffering till he comes, because why? You keep Pasaking Chag Matsah. And often as you do this, you remember his death and suffering till you come. You can always go to your ark, your Qahalath. You can always go to your lid and unlid it and look inside it in your treasure chest any time of the day. And you can always, hit, the mon in there too. Matter of fact, the showbread, the Qahalath bread, our Harun, the zizits in there, rod that butter, and the 10 Commandments. Man, it's all in there. And you can always open it. Be like, where you going? Open them up. Right, I ain't telling you. So the life of the Yahushua also may be manifest in our bodies. How else are you going to keep manifesting him? Man, I need to go look at my chest again, my money chest. See how much value I got in there. What I got in there? Man, you seen that? I remember that thing. Woo, you ever went in something old, like something you had laid away somewhere, and you ain't never opened it in a long time, and you need to open that thing back up. You be like, man, I got a lot of money. I'm rich. Man, I'm rich on the inside. You like, man, I'm rich. I thought I was poor. I thought I had nowhere to lay my. I thought I ain't have nothing. Man, I thought I was empty. It's like, man, I got a whole bunch of it in there. Man, I got a whole bunch. I thought I was poor. For we who live are always being given over to death of Yahushua Mashiach, Yahushua's sake, that the life of Yahushua also may be manifest in our mortal flesh. Huh? Now you see why I say flesh. Basar, basar. How beautiful are the feet of those who bring glad tidings, good news. Or you mean basar. They put good news, basar, because it's good news to your flesh that you have the ark on it. You can put things on the inside of you. Because they teaching good news so you can store it in your chest. You know, your chest. So death is at work in us, but life in you. Oh. Because he's emptying himself. I'm giving you life inside of your body. You know what Malachi did to Daniel? He said, man, ain't no breath in me, no neshama. And he breathed on him. He said, receive the Ruach Kadosh. And he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and they became a living soul. Right? So the Dead Sea Scrolls 4Q 257. These are the paths in the world to enlighten the heart of man. Straighten out in front of him all the paths of true justice. Why? Because you need to do the first 21 days. Matter of fact, you need to do it to preciseness, or you're going to miss your out on the revelation of Yahushua Mashiach inside your mind. Because some people did. And you do. They can't got nothing that they do to put in their chest. They treasure chest. They are room. And they can't NASA the ark because they can't bear the ark. But when you get strong enough, he said, he's going to take what is mine and declare it to you and give it to you. And then now, guess what's getting ready to happen? What did the children of Yasharal always take to war with them? They always had that thing with them two poles in it, boy. They put them two poles in. They put that mercy seat on top. They put the lid on it. They already knew. Them people started shouting in the camp. Wow, right? They screaming because they already knew. Man, the ark done came back. The ark is in the camp, and that's what you got to be in the world. Why do you think you praise him with a loud shout? What that mean? Why do you think you do that? He said, what's the reason for all this shouting? Because the ark done came back in the camp. I thought he suffered outside the camp. I thought it ain't the ark. He got the ark inside the camp. Because where were the disciples? Where he revealed the ark at? Where he went to go put things in the ark at? Outside of Jerusalem, 7 miles away. He was 7 miles. He was outside the camp when he did that. And you be thinking like, why he put it inside of me? Because the Qahalath gonna take the kingdom, Mount Ku. That's why. He said, be always ready, right? Because you never know. Establish in your heart respect for the precepts of Elohim and the Ruach of Anu, meekness, of patience and generous compassion. Right, you got to be real generous with this. As you freely receive, freely give. Man, this stuff free, man. I would charge me, man, a conference, $100, $150 a person to get in. Man, I'll make about $2 million off that thing you just said. Man, may Yahuwah have mercy in your soul on the day of judgment. Right? That's gonna be your life, not mine. Hey, dude, I gave it for free, Yahuwah. I ain't do it for no money. Right? He said, you freely receive, freely give. Generous compassion, right? That's generous compassion. It's generous. Eternal goodness and intelligence, right? And that's Shama. Understanding and potent wisdom, which trust in all the deeds of Elohim, and depends on his abundant mercy, right? Because that's what we do. Where the mercy at? On the mercy seat. When you put the cup of wrath on top of them, on the lid on your room. And you got to put this inside the Aydah, inside the ark, and then you go and pray. When you go on your face and you pray, man. Yahuwah, have mercy on my soul, because it's inside of you. That's why Ezra says, Nefesh, receive wisdom and instruction. Because he receives it. It's in my Aydah. It's in my room. Then guess what? I pray to Yahuwah, and he answers me immediately. Because I got a lot of mercy. A ruach of knowledge and all plans of action, of enthusiasm, decrees of justice, and set apart plans with the firm purpose of generous compassion with all the sons of truth, of magnificent purity which detests all unclean idols and unclean practices. Right? Shall we continue in sin that calm may abound? No, I ain't transgress the discharge laws if you want to. But you got to sacrifice. Hey, they go down right now. Right? You still got to count 7 days. You got to make sure. You got to make sure. You got to be thorough with it. How you say? Compassion with all the sons of truth, which detest all unclean idols, of careful behavior and wisdom concerning everything. That means everything. Of concealment concerning the truth of the mysteries of the knowledge. These are the foundations of the ruachs of the sons of truth in the world. This is all foundational stuff. And the reward of those who walk in it will be healing. Why do you think that woman was like, she touched one of his fringes, one of his zizis at the four corners of his garment. She was like, I perceive virtue, energy came out from me. It says, plentiful peace and long life. Shalom, shalom. Peace, peace. He said to the disciples in the house when he came in, he showed them his hands and his side, his issue of blood. And then he said what? Shalom again. That was long life, because you got eternal life. He said, he breathed on him, he said, receive the Ruach Qahalath. Fruitful offspring and everlasting barak. Eternal enjoyment. How you going to have a fruitful offspring if your Azara ain't helping? He said, in Azara. Eternal enjoyment in this life and crown of kabod and majestic raiment in eternal light. He said, man, a crown, a kabod, and majestic raiment and in eternal light. However, the ruach of deceit belongs greed. You don't want to put this in your room. Matter of fact, you don't even want to put it on the side of it, inside the ark. What do you think gonna happen when you put that next to the ark, inside of you? You finna get plagued. All the things you read about when the ark came into people's camp and they possessions, you get barak. Like Obed Edom, but he was getting barak in his house. Right? Same thing with Cornelius. He was getting barak too. Right? But all these were a part of it. But if you got greed, you put that next to your ark, you can be like, man, what's going on? What's going on? Right? Because a lot of these understanding was not revealed during that time. So you were kind of ignorant, and then you were touching it, offering strange incense. You start touching stuff, and you were like, whoa, whoa, right? Start swinging his hand at you, right? Sluggish in the service of justice. That's in judgment. Sluggish. Wickedness, falsehood, pride, haughtiness of heart. And the daughters of Sion are haughty and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes. Guess what happened to all the households after that? He took everything they had. They weren't carrying the ark, right? And then he killed all the men in war. How the men got killed in war? Because the women were not saying wisdom out of their mouth from the ark. Because out of her mouth supposed to go wisdom and kindness. Dishonesty, they started lying. They got the venom of asp in their tongue. They're like a snake. Trickery, start tricking people. I ain't unclean. I'm not unclean. And start touching people. Cruelty, much insecurity, impatience, much foolishness, impudent enthusiasm for appalling acts performed in lustful passion. Right? Filthy past in the service of impurity. That's what all those things we just read. That's filthy. Remember we said it's filthy? Blasphemous tongue. You start saying things out of your mouth. Blindness of eyes, hardness of hearing, stiffness of neck. So if you have a filthy past in the service of impurity, what are you fighting? When you are impure and unclean in your menstrual, or you have things discharged, you are fighting demons, because they're going to create demons. And you're going to be fighting demonic spirits coming at you all the time. That's why you have all these things coming against your mind and your body, your inward man, your stomach. These are all the wars of the demons coming at your body, because you have an uncleanness in your body that can't be taken away, and you have to wait a certain period of time for it to leave. So during that period of time where you have to wait, you get a lot of shadim and demons and Satan and Shaitan trying to get in your mind to destroy your household. And that's the same thing that happened. If you ever watch a person destroy their household, if people ever ask, were you in your menstrual cycle during that time? Was you have any imbalances in your heart and your mind during that time? Do you have just bath, just ephah, and just mazon? Do you have just balances? Because that's what's going to take place. Because that's what the war you're going to take place for them. If this goes last 7 days. And amazingly, this woman was in there for 12 years fighting the urges and the demons. And all she did was touch Yahushua's garment. So all these spirits and stuff, my stomach got a cramp. Demons coming at you. My mind is going all, I'm in balance. Demons, cravings, demons. Because you're attracting the very thing, unclean spirits. You have it in your body. So therefore, they come at you full force. So that's why I'm going to put a little Aydah in your room, in your treasure chest, in your room, and you can put the cup of wrath on top of it, and you can win every single battle. Because they ain't going to win. Cool. They're not going to win. They're not. If you believe it. Blasphemous tongue, blindness of eyes, hardness of hearing, stiffness of neck, hardness of heart, in order to walk in the paths of darkness and evil cunning. Because that's what's going to happen. That's why he told you to circumcise the foreskin of your heart and be no longer stubborn. Because stubbornness is going to bring the demons. And then you're going to walk in darkness and evil cunning. You're going to have hardness of heart. He said today, if you hear his voice, harden not your heart. Because that's going to be the actual transformation. You ain't going to win. You're going to lose. And then Satan going to take over your mind. You're going to have you erratic. Then you're going to wake up from your dream and everything going to be destroyed. And the visitation of those who walk in it will be abundance of afflictions at the hand of the Malachia of destruction, of eternal damnation and scorching wrath of the Elohim that revenges, for permanent terror and shame. Right? That's why he tells you to leave people alone. He said, why do you say leave a man who's consecrating alone? Why do you say a woman is a minstrel, leave her alone? Because leave them alone and let them fight their battle. Because they got to concentrate. Because if you don't let them fight their battle, a permanent terror and shame without end, with humiliation, the destruction of the fire of the dark region. So if you don't humble yourself now, humiliate yourself. That's what movement. Remember, we talked about your tumor. We talked about cleaning your tameh out of your house. We talked about the humiliation of it for the first 16 days. But if you don't humble yourself, humiliate yourself, just like we did for these 21 days, even after, you start seeing it continuing, because Yahushua spoke to the disciples for 40 days after that. And all the ages of their generations, they shall spend in bitter weeping. Why are you sad? And when the woman sad? When all the disciples sad, they were all weeping. Everybody was sad. Dawid was weeping, going up the hill. All the people with him head covered, weeping, going up the hill. And harsh evils of the abyss of the darkness with destruction. And Absalom didn't even know that he had the Malachia of destruction in him. He destroyed 10 virgins. Because Shaitan was fighting against, Shaitan overcame him. Without there being a remnant or survival for them. Right, that's how serious this is. This is Psalm 32, 6-9. Therefore, let everyone who is conceived offer prayer to you at the time you may be found. What do you mean time may be found? When you who was found? In the evening time? At Bakar, in between the cherubim. If you have it inside of you, he found all the time. He said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. I'll be with you always, even unto the end. All you gotta do is go there. Surely in the rush of great waters, isn't that what is rapid? Remember, what that word people, where Daniel at? It was rapid. Great waters, they shall not reach him. What he praying? He said, I come because of your words, Daniel. You are a hiding place for me. You preserve me from trouble. You surround me with shouts of deliverance. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. Oh, you who are looking at us. What are you doing? But be not the horse and the mule without understanding. That's why he was trying to make Daniel. He said, I come to give you the understanding. You're going to be like a horse and a mule. What do you want to be, a horse? A horse, of course. That's what you want to be. You want to be a horse? And guess what? Which must be curbed with bit and bridle. These are all like little bits. I only can listen to 30 minutes, 25 minutes of it, 45 minutes. You're like a bit and bridle. Or it will not stay near you. You know how you give you can't get no animal to stay next to you. You better give him some food. But you know, get little bits, kibbles and bits and bits and bits, right? Little bits and bits and food. He said, you want to be like that? Or you want to be like the... It all depends. Because everybody ain't the same, right? Right, the word for godly is chesed. It means faithful, kind, godly, Qahalath ones, saints, pious, kind, faithful ones, kind. He said to his faithful ones, you got to be kind-hearted, merciful. You know where you find mercy? If you got the mercy seat on the inside, you should be merciful to other people. You who is kind, loving, compassionate. If that's who he is, and the faithful one, he said that the life of Yahushua might be manifested in our mortal bodies. He's trying to manifest it in our life. That's the way you should be. Psalms 37, 7 through 11. Be still before Yahuwah and wait patiently for him. Fret not yourself for the one who prospers in the way, over the man who carries out evil devices, or woman. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Fret or karah not yourself. Don't karah yourself. It tends only to evil. For evildoers shall be cut off. But those who wait for Yahuwah shall inherit the Arads. Just a little while, the wicked will be no more. Though you look carefully at his place, he will not be there. But the meek shall inherit the Arads, and delight themselves in the abundance of shalom. Shalom, shalom to you. That's what he said when he came into the house. Abundance of shalom is shalom, shalom. Abundance of humility, like Daniel was, ana. That was abundance of humility when you double it. Just like he told the woman to say, or, eyes, put on strength, song. That's double seen, right? Right, so that word for the meek is enu. And you got to see it. You have to be able to see. Poor, humble, afflicted, meek, poor, needy, meek, depressed, gentle, in mind, gentle, needy, sainty, right? So what does this got to do with anything? This is Romans 8, 6 through 11. For to set the mind on the flesh is death. He said that woman was in her menstrual in her flesh. In her flesh, right? Your natural man. But to set the mind on the Ruach is life and shalom. That's inside. It's kaya. It's life and peace. What do you think? He breathed into Adam's nostrils and he became a living soul. A kaya nefash. And all souls is Yahuwah. It's peace. If you set your mind on Ruach, it's life and peace. If you do the inward man, your flesh may have 12 years of issues of blood. It may have 7 days. It may have 21 days. It may have 34 days. Matter of fact, you may have an issue. You may have an issue in your bowels and your movements and your right. You know, things may come out of you in the middle of the night because you're fighting against Satan and Shaitan. And guess what? But if you focus on the inward man, this life and peace though. The flesh Satan just gonna torment you. For the mind that is set on the flesh is hostile against Elohim. That's why Satan and Shaitan fighting against Michael and his Malachim. That's why it's a battle. He said, why they fighting? Because. Why they coming at you? Why? Because you're of the Ruach. So when you're of the Ruach, Satan and his Malachim gonna fight you. Versus Michael and his Malachim. The people of the Ruach know they gotta be Anu, Ana, humble servants, Shifkas, Abyb. They gotta be a certain way. They gotta be Aman. They gotta be a humble handmaid. They gotta be like real humble. If you don't, you're gonna be hostile toward Elohim. We gotta stay humble. You're gonna be hostile. For it does not submit to Yahuwah's law. They're not gonna do it. I'm telling you, they hostile. I know he says, yeah, you know, they good. No, they hostile. They hostile at any moment. It cannot. You gotta be humble in your flesh, in your inner man. Your inner man is the only way you're going to be able to keep Yahuwah's law. Like, man, this thing says I have to wait 7 days. I have to count 7 days. And if it's longer than that, I have to count, after it's over, I got to count another 7 days just to make sure. Just so I care about myself and other people. But the other people ain't going to do that. Man, you know how many people done did that? Unclean. They go out here and just do all types of stuff, sleep in their menstrual cycle, do all this stuff, oppress people, lie, do all types of stuff. That's just evil. It cannot. Those who are in the flesh cannot please Yahuwah. There's no way in the world. I don't care who you are. You can't. You, however, are not in the flesh, but in the Ruach. If, in fact, the Ruach of Yahuwah dwells in you, anyone who does not have the Ruach of Mashiach does not belong to him. So who you belong to? But if Mashiach, Yahusha, is in you, okay, if he's in you, so you don't put it in your room, right? And you put it in you put the Aydah in your room, and then you put your ChayParach on top, your lid on top of it. Although the body is dead because of sin, right? Because you can't do nothing. You be like, man, I'm unclean. I can't do nothing. I'm dead. I can't do nothing, right? I'm alone. I'm inconsecrated. I can't do nothing. You know how they say, you want to go? No, I can't go. You want to do this? No. You dead to sin. You can't do nothing. The Ruach is life because of righteousness. If the Ruach of him who raised up Yahusha from the dead dwells in you, he who raised Mashiach Yahusha from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through his Ruach who dwells in you. So what does that mean? What does he mean by that? This is the book of Numbers, chapter 10, verse 34. This is the book of Numbers. This is probably the most important part of this whole thing. This is the book of Numbers, chapter 10, and verse 34. Actually, go to 10 and 33. Numbers 10, 33. So they set out from the mount of Yahuwah 3 days' journey. Okay. How long? When Yahuwah got up? 3 days. Right? Third day. The ark of the Arun of the covenant of Yahuwah went before them. 3 days' journey. Huh? Went 3 days' journey. To seek out a resting place for them. Why do you think Yahushua got out of the grave and he left the ark, left it and went 7 miles from Jerusalem? He was seeking out a resting place for all that knowledge. He was seeking out a resting place. Why do you think he would talk to the men while they were walking? Why do you think he talked to the woman? Why do you think he went to go meet with them in the house? And the cloud of Yahuwah was over them by day, and whenever they set out from the camp, behold, he comes with clouds, and every eye gonna see him. Then he says, and whenever the ark set out, Mashah said, he said, this same Ruach which be in you was also in Yahushua Mashiach, shall also, what? Give life to your mortal bodies. Be scattered, and let those, get what it says, and whenever the ark set out, Mashah said, arise, O Yahuwah, if this same Ruach was in Yahusha, it's going to also quicken your life and your mortal body. He says, arise, O Yahuwah, and let your enemies be scattered. Why? Because if the same Ruach was in Yahusha, is in you, it's going to raise you up. Because it's in your ark, inside of your body. It's going to raise you up. And let those who hate before you flee before you. Depart from me, you workers of iniquity, for I'm going to keep the commandments of Yahuwah. Because it's inside of the ark, the 10 commandments. What's in there? It's inside of your ark. Matter of fact, that's Aharon's bride that but is in your ark. The man, the showbread, the Qahalath bread is in the ark. Matter of fact, the Turah is on the side of it, like a weapon. You know, like a weapon. Like, man, I'm finna get my weapon. I need a sword of Qahalath. Kareth Qahalath. He's like. And guess what it says? And when it rested, he said, return, O Yahuwah, to the 10,000s of Yasharal. He said, return. That's how you're going to get back. He said, I want to return. You want to go to the Mount Kuth? Because they that are the flesh mind the things of the flesh, right? And they that are the ruach, the things of the ruach. Because this is all important. Right, this is Yuchanan chapter 15, verse 1. We almost finished. Yuchanan chapter 15, verse 1. John chapter 15 and verse 1. John chapter 15 and verse 1. It says, I am the true vine. My Father is the vine dresser. Every branch of me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that does not bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Already you are clean by the words that I have spoken to you. I thought you were unclean by your menstrual. Because remember, he said when the sun go down, he said what? You count 7 days, and then on the 8th day, he said, then you give to the priest and you offer a sacrifice. But he just said, now you are clean by the words that I spoke to you. If you go in the corner of Ruach, man. Flesh, yeah. But if you go in the corner of Ruach, he said, now you are clean to the words I've spoken to you. People say, why is this important? Because when was Yahushua circumcised? People say they know. When was Yahushua circumcised? Right? This is the book of Bereshit. We almost finished, man. It's in my head. I gotta say it. This is the book of Bereshit, chapter 18, and verse. Bereshit chapter 18, verse 1. And Yahuwah appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre, and he sat there at the door of the tent of the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there men were standing in front of him. And when he saw them, he ran to the tent door to meet them and bowed his face to the earth. And he said, O Yahuwah, if I found favor in your sight, do not pass by your servant. Yet let a little water be brought and wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. So when was that? The 14th day, at evening time. Actually, 14th day. But it was the heat of the day, though. Of the 14th day. Because why? Because the day before, what did he do? He circumcised. In Genesis chapter 17, he circumcised everybody. He was 99 years old. You had to be circumcised in order to take Pesach, right? But notice how they had their feet washed. That's what Yahushua did when he was in the what? In the house with the disciples. Here we go. And to rest yourselves under the tree, while I bring a morsel of bread, lakam, that I may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on. Right? That's what he said. So what's this got of time? Go to verse 9. They said to him, where is Sarah, your wife? And he said, she is in the tent. And Yahuwah said, I will surely return about this time next year. What day is that? The 14th day in between the suns. And what's going to happen? And Sarah, your wife, shall have a son. And Sarah was listening at the tent door before him. Going to verse 14. And is anything too hard for Yahuwah? At the appointed time, I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh. For she was afraid. He said, no, but you did laugh, because you thought it was funny. So when was Yahushua circumcised? He was born on the 14th day. Matter of fact, he was born on the 14th day. And you know how many days you got to wait before you circumcise a child? 8 days. You got to wait 8 days. And then you got Pesach for 7 days. You got unleavened bread for 7 days after he was born, right? So that's 7 days, right? That's 14th day to the 21st day, which is today. And then after 7 days, what do? You circumcise. But would you count the 14th day? Because if you counted the 14th day, right, or that 14th, the day he was born, that's one day. Then you go 14th day, Then you go to the 15th day, that's 2. Then you go to the 15th day, that's 3. Then you go to the 16th day, that's 4. Then you go to the 4, yeah. Then you go to the 17th day, that's 5. 18th day, 6. So I think that's right, if my math is correct. Right, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. It'd be the 21st day of the month that Yahushua was circumcised in the foreskin of his flesh when he was born. He said, why is this important? This is Romans chapter 2 and verse 26. Romans chapter 2 and verse 26. So if a man who is uncircumcised keeps the precepts of the law, will not his uncircumcision be regarded as circumcision? Skipping over to verse 28. Romans 2:28. For no one is a Yehudi who is merely one outwardly, nor is circumcision outward and physical. Because they that are the flesh mind the things of the flesh, but they that are the Ruach, things of the Ruach. But Yahushua had to do it in the natural flesh. Why? For Yasharah. That's the only way. A woman can't get circumcised in the foreskin of her yard, but she can in her heart, though. And when did that happen? But the Yehudi is one inwardly, and circumcision is a matter of the heart. When did that happen? When Yahushua got circumcised. Today. By the Ruach, not by the letter. His praise is not from man, but from Elohim. Right, the circumcision that Yahushua got on this day when he was born was for man, for the natural man. But the putting on, the cutting off of things from your body and you consecrating yourself unto this day is for Elohim and for the Ruach, man. And circumcision is not out of the flesh, but it's of the heart. And he puts a cap on it and a seal on your circumcision because you did it all the way to the 21st day. People don't know that. I hope I'm not, that's right. But Aleph Yuchanan 1, Yuchanan, John 2, 24 to 28. Let what you heard from the beginning abide in you. And if what you heard from the beginning abides in you, then you too will abide in the Son and in the Father. This is the promise he has made to us, eternal life. I write these things about those who are trying to deceive you. Just Satan. He said, I don't have to do that. Okay, this time next year, if Yahuwah's will, we still be here. I assure you, you got to do the same thing again. And guess what's going to happen during that time? More knowledge is going to get revealed to you. And you're going to have to store it in your room. Your ark. I write these things about those who are trying to deceive you, but the anointing that you received from him, because he's going to take what is mine and declare it to you. That's what he said. And this is the part, right? Is it? Right? Going back to Yochanan chapter 16, John chapter 16 and verse 12. John chapter 16 and verse 12. I still have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. Why? You can't NASA the ark right now. When the Ruach of truth comes, he will guide you into all truth, for he will not speak of his own authority, but whatever he hears, he will speak. And he will declare to you the things that are to come. He will kabod me. No one is a Yehudi which is one outwardly, outward and physical. But the Yehudi is one inwardly, whose praise is not from men, but from Elohim. For he will kabod me, for he will take what is mine and declare it to you. After that, the Father has is mine. Therefore, I said, he will take what is mine and declare it to you. This Aleph Yuchanan 2:26. I write these things about those who are trying to deceive you, But the anointing that you receive from him abides in you, abides in your Arun, abides in you with your ChayParach on top of it. And you have no need that anyone should teach you because it's in your ark. And all you got to do that's all you got to do. You be like, that's it. That's it. Just go in there and open it up. You know, they show you Indiana Jones with and all these demons come out, right? And start killing people, right? But in actuality, but that's the whole point. But the anointing that teaches you about everything and is true and no lie, just as it has taught you, abide in you. And now, little children, abide in him. So that when he appears, you may have confidence not to shrink from him in shame at his coming. Like Adam. So what did you do? I ate from the tree that was knowledge of good and evil, and I put it inside of the ark. But what did Daniel do? He consecrated himself for 21 days, and he hit the ground, and he had no strength in himself, and he shrunk in shame. But then what he did? He touched him. He said, "I have no strength in me." Then he breathed on him, and he lifted him up. That's how compassionate Yahuwah is. Generous compassion. I come because of your words, because you said we have sinned. That's all you got. It says, strength from him and shame at his coming, because he's coming back. Right? This is Rock 3, 17 to 23. My son and daughter, go on thy business and ain't new, in meekness. So shalt thou be beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself. So you got to continue to humble yourself. I know people ain't going to do it. He said, I don't want to humble myself no more. I don't want to aid new myself. Humbling yourself ain't got to always be fasting. Humble yourself just doing simple things that shows that you're still humble. He said, when you going to get to the point where you can two becoming one, when flesh and ruach, because Yahushua had put on flesh like us and still lived amongst us and still did the same things, but without sin. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. Ainu. Many are in high places of renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the meek, the Ainu, the Anah. Like, there you go, Anah. When you set your heart to understand, Anah. For the power of Yahuwah is great and honored with the lowly. It ain't honored with nobody who high-minded, who full of vigor, who want to be the best, boast, and all that. It's not honor. He ain't getting honor out of that. You know who getting honor out of that? You. And you are Yehudi according to the flesh, not according to the Ruach. You. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. He said, don't do it. He said, man, I'm going to search for something. Yahuwah said, I have many things to say unto you. Right now, you ain't able to bear it. You can't NASA that. You might want to wait till you get a little stronger to put that in your ark to try to carry it. You know, that's what people do. That's what Satan do. He got all online, YouTube, Instagram. He got all this stuff. You can't even carry it. And then when Satan comes, you be trying to carry your stuff, and he just beating you down. You ain't got no weapons to fight because you too heavy with all that stuff that they sold in your consciousness. It's all inside of you in your ark, and now you heavy. You was like, cast that stuff away. Everything I gave you was just enough to whoop Satan. You just don't know it. Shaitan don't got nothing on what I'm telling you right now. That's why he gonna fight. He gonna be hostile too. He gonna be hostile. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. Ain't no point. What are you seeking? You know what he told the woman? What are you seeking? You must be seeking something that's above your strength. Because why are you seeking the living among the dead? You know, all these people that are dead and gone, and you know, they're searching for their words, and it's not the Nabi'im, and it's not Yahushua Mashiach. Look at all these people that's dead and they still listen to, they got the words of them in their consciousness. Think about that. Yahushua alive, he said, man, I'm alive. I'm sitting at the right hand of Elohim. But yet you seeking things that are dead. These people dead. Remember, I'm above you at the right hand of Yahuwah. But what is commanded thee? Think thereupon with reverence. Maybe we just talked about thinking. Right, that was a part of Anah. Think. For it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret, because Yahuwah judges all the secrets of men. He watching us, right? He watching everybody. He 10,000 times brighter than the sun. Ain't no need for you to see it. Be not curious in unnecessary matters. It's unnecessary. Just like they got all this unnecessary stuff out here in the world right now. I assure you, yeah, Mikal and his Malachim gonna fight. And granted, it's a deception, it's a great deception going on right now. They trying to make it look like Michael and the Malachim fighting against them right now. But in actuality, that stuff is taking place right here in your heart, in your mind. They trying to show you something, and they trying to make it look like them. But in actuality, they ain't got nothing to do with them. That's just a masquerading as a Malachi of light. That's all it is. It's just a Malachi, but the end gonna be according to their deeds. But you see the stuff they do, right? It's gonna get you now. Right? People say no. The end gonna be according to your deeds, right? Whatever they keep doing, when they end, I assure you, it's because of their deeds. Whatever happens, right? Be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men, women, and children understand, right? So this concludes Chag Matsah, day 7. This is the 21st day. As the sun going down, we look at the understanding of Yahushua Mashiach. And in between the suns, we understanding between the cherub. He said, yes, it's over. But at the same time, it must continue, right? Just like that's what we talk about 24th day. Then y'all saw the Malachi, and he said for 21 days they were fighting me. But knowing that we still got these other days and waving the sheaf, and understanding that these things still take place. Now, for one to continue, one has to choose to say, I'm going to continue to follow Yahushua Mashiach to the 24th day. It's up to you. You can go right back to what you were doing before and continue to do the things you were doing before. And you can go right back to the life that you used to live and go back to whatever you do, whether you're a transgressor or you're not. But in order to go and to really do this thing the way he wants you to, one has to continue and not go back to what they usually normally put in their body, the foods they consume, and the things, and really think on what's just been said. And really honor it and understand what it's like to walk in the Einu, humble, and how the Malachi, fellowship with you. But these are all the truths that will make you free. And you want power, the only power you got is inside of you. And that power is to follow Yahushua Mashiach, who did no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth. For even after this day, he revealed himself with many proofs and trying to prove that he is risen from the grave. And for many days he stayed, even the 40 days. And all these things took place in a 3-month time period. And all this love that he showed to us is only for a moment. And then he was taken away. But yet he's going to come back at a time appointed. And we're only rehearsing it. We're only reenacting a pattern. And we're only following the steps of Yahushua Mashiach to Chag Shabuah. That's all you're doing. You're just following his steps. And then by doing so, you'll find, he's like, man, I have stopped doing certain things I normally would do. I have stopped desiring things I normally desire. And now the only thing I really desire is the debar of Yahuwah. That's it. And when you do that, then you'll understand what it's like to be the living word in the earth. So we look at all these things, look at Yahushua Mashiach, we look at the light of life, we look at the light that shined and made the trees grow on the 3rd day, and not the sun that we see come out of the first portal. But it was Yahuwah Elohim and his light and his aura that he shined. For Yahuwah is light, and in him is no darkness at all. There ain't no darkness gonna make no tree grow in no Ruach world, in your inner man. The only thing that's gonna make your tree and your light and your aura grow and your branches grow in the inner man is Yahuwah's light. That's why Dawid said, Yahuwah is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Yahuwah is the strength of my life. To whom shall I be afraid? When my enemies encompass me, Tashua Yahuwah, right? It is they who stumble and fall like in Nakash. Because the Nakash is going to fall down to the ground. He the one going to hit the ground. There ain't going to be no place for him inside of me anymore. Because that's the whole point of it. And guess where he going to be going? To find somebody else to go inside. And when he ain't got nobody to go inside, and when those 7 spirits go out of you, why do you think he tells a woman to count 7 days? You'd be like, why he tells her to count 7 days? The only reason he tells her to count 7 days is because of the 7 spirits that Satan be bringing to try to get back inside of you. And you're going to have to pull your sword out, you're going to have to fight, and you're going to have to make sure that you come out of there unscathed. And there ain't no place for Satan in here. I don't care if I'm on my menstrual cycle. It's just the suffering that I got to do. I'm just like Yahushua on the cross. When all those people were deriding him and telling him to come down from the cross, the only thing you can say to them people and them Satan and demons, I'm doing a great work. I can't come down. Why should the work cease and I let you take over my body? Right? If we look at all that, we look at everything that's happened and everything that's going to happen. And the truth that will make you free on the inside. For the meek, the Aydah shall inherit the Achad. The meek shall inherit the earth.